It's called Rodri.
Okay, this guy is called Rodri Lodge. He was widowed in 2019, but quickly found a new binding love in a Kenyan woman. Or so he thought. In a tale that sounds stranger than fiction, Lodge was in love with a woman he never saw or heard, but he sent her all his savings.
Okay.
The 69-year-old is in Kenya on a tourism visa that expires next month, and only has 12,000 shillings left in his bank account, which can neither afford him a home in Kenya nor an air ticket back to Europe. After his wife of 25 years died, the loneliness sent him searching for love and company. They had no children. And then he met Anita through a chain of friends. She was 39, or so he thought. I'm not what did that one.
I'm sorry.
Things moved rather fast, and Lodge offered his money to complete that would have been their matrimonial home in Voi, Taita Taveta County. He wired some 15 million to the new love between last year and late as last month. Bits.
So he's wiring. There's an existing bank account.
Yes. In December, the love-struck widower took a flight to Kenya, hoping to be received with a warm embrace. He didn't have Anita's telephone number and only communicated with her through another woman named Mary. Yes, please?
I have so many questions.
Okay. I never saw her image, and whenever I tried to ask her direct number, there was always excuses, he said. But he knows it's that Mary lives in Utawala in Nairobi, and lately the narrative that she moved to Juba in South Sudan.
I'm sorry. I can't hold it anymore.
The 15 million Lodge sent in multiple tranches was for finishing a 4-bedroom home Anita had allegedly constructed. We agreed that I come over in December 2023 so that we have our wedding this year, Lodge told the Star. The woman won his trust when she said she was a mother of 2 grown-up children in university in the United States and that she lived in Karen.
Abbas. She lived in Karen.
Yeah, but
her friend is in Utawala.
Yeah, but she used the phone in Utawala.
Okay.
Probably Lodge thought Utawala was next to Karen. Or it was an estate within Karen. But anyway.
It was a street.
The Voi house was supposed to be the second home.
Oh, very good.
Once in Nairobi, the communication got shaky. Anita said she was in Mombasa and resisted a substantial push to return to Nairobi to meet Lodge. She would, but I thought she was talking through Mary. So now she's in Mombasa. How is she talking through Mary? Anyway, let's leave that for a side. She would cite various excuses, including that she was attending to family problems in Mombasa and could not travel to Nairobi. When I offered to go to Mombasa and meet her, she refused, he said. At one point, Anita claimed that her father was admitted in Nairobi hospital with prostate cancer. But when Lodge sent a cousin of his friend to check, it turned out no one related to Anita was a patient at the hospital. Meanwhile, the man continued sending more money. And then the love of his life vanished. Lodge has since established that the number he was sending money to belonged to his friend Mary Anita, to his friend Mary. Anita never existed.
So who is he narrating this story to?
To the Star. The gentleman called Gordon Osen has written this story. And there's a picture of this.
Is he sure that these people he was communicating with were in Kenya in the first place?
Maybe they were just there with him in this thing.
I don't know. You see, a story like this borders on the bizarre.
Why?
Did he see her picture? He said he never saw her picture. He never saw what she looked like. But they just spoke over the phone in Utawala, Karen.
This man, clearly...
But he was in love.
Yes, this man needed companionship.
Clearly.
He was clearly very lonely. And clearly he was a man who believed in online dating and finding of those hard thingamajigs that people tend to look for. And it's clear
soulmate.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. He needed to latch onto something. And the
looks like this thing latched onto him.
Yes, and I'm talking about thing here. Because Anita wasn't there, so it was a thing. So the thing he latched onto, he continued latching, and it's like the more money he sent, the more he was going to send, because he so desperately wanted this to be true, so very desperately.
Never saw an image of this woman.
Never saw an
even
image.
Even picture.
That's what I thought, because at some point, surely picture must be sent.
So did you see the picture of this Utawala babe? The Utawala Fixer?
There's no mention of the Utawala Fixer.
Because there's an Utawala Fixer.
Yes.
He's communicating with an Utawala Fixer.
Yes.
Who is fixing him with the Karen babe.
You want to call tomorrow, Tuesday? Oh, fine. I will be in Karen at 7:30. Please call at 7:30. There's somebody who's connecting them.
But he's saying he never even heard her voice.
Oh, they didn't even speak on the phone?
They did.
But he said that
They
when they
spoke on
wanted
the phone?
to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what did he see?
He spoke to a voice. Okay? Yes, he did.
Okay.
But the voice could have been anybody.
It could have been, just talk to this guy. I'm just passing. Talk to this guy and just tell him, I'm fine. I love you too. Let's.
Yes, 500 bob.
This
is what you say.
Yeah, say this. And just,
Said to be
engage
the
in
same
the
person.
conversation.
Yes, because it's the same voice. But then also, if you're speaking from abroad, abroad, okay, it is very possible.
All Africans sound the same.
Exactly. Especially if they're female.
Jesus. What? But I'm still yet to.
So now he only has 12K.
12K ndi mebaki.
Na Harambee imekuwa banned. Ruto ameban Harambee.
No, Harambee is for...
Sasa tutasaidia yeye nani?
M-Pesa si Harambee.
TCC public officials, tunaweza msaidia.
The only people who can afford to Harambee
Are public officials.
What
Return
you do-
15 million.
No, I think we're jumping the gun here. Iko embassy. Your Great Britain hapa Kenya.
It's a UK fella.
Yes. He's citizen of UK.
So?
Can go to embassy. Embassy can find ways of sending him back. They have such arrangements. Because if they can evacuate citizens when there is an impending this and the other and turmoil and the other, surely they have a facility for their fellow citizens when they're stranded in a beautiful country like Kenya. Is that not so?
It's so.
Do as you would say, Nespa?
Wait, c'est ça?
Yes, exactly. So, ini ngumu. Anyway, that was story number one.
And Chick D has gone to Juba.
Chick D is in South. First of all, she was in Mombasa, then took a direct flight. This is me adding.
She took a direct flight to Juba.
Yeah, when she knew the guy was in town.
But it's her love now. Why should she not?
Now, let me just tell you story number two.
Story number two.
Government says deported top EU official is a spy, not was, is. Was working against the country. The French embassy differs. They say, sorry. The embassy of France wishes to express its deepest concerns regarding the manner in which Hotte, his name is Hotte, Hotte. Is it hot?
Hot. If it's French, it's hot. The last letter of the word you don't pronounce, unless it has an accent.
He's hot.
He's
Hot.
Okay.
Okay, he's hot.
He's hot.
Confusing me. Which Hot was treated in the course of his mission. At least they admit he had a mission, isn't it? Okay.
Oh my God.
But he's a diplomat. That's why he
In a mission. Alikuwa na mission, eh?
Abuanza story.
The new twist has emerged over the deportation of a top European Union official who was initially thought to have been expelled in retaliation for Kenya's grey listing as a wash paradise. A government intelligence brief, however, says Derek Hott was kicked out of the country after it was discovered he's an undercover spy, undermining the country's national security. The brief, obtained exclusively by The Star, claims Hott's mission was to secretly recruit senior security officers and top government bureaucrats with the aim of infiltrating government. Superpowers have often used sophisticated intelligence networks to conduct espionage operations against foreign governments, including allies and rivals. Hott is a French national. On Monday, The Star wrote to the French embassy in Nairobi and to Hott for a rejoinder. But at the time of going to press, none had responded. On Thursday last week, this publication reported that Hott, team leader of the EU Global Facility on Anti-Money Laundering and Terrorism Financing, was dramatically deported from Kenya days after the country was grey-listed. The EU organization that he leads works closely with the Financial Action Task Force. The global anti-money laundering watchdog did the grey listing. Hott was jetted into the country on February 24th to offer technical assistance to member states of Eastern and Southern Africa anti-laundering group, including Kenya's Financial Reporting Center at Vipingo in Kilifi County. However, he was arrested the following day. Arrived arrested at Wilson Airport before boarding a flight to Vipingo. The move triggered a diplomatic row, which both the EU and the Embassy of France in Nairobi demanding for answers. The Embassy of France wishes to express its deepest concerns regarding the manner in which Hot was treated in the course of his mission, which is not in line with the spirit of partnership that prevails between EU and Kenya, as reaffirmed in the framework of EU-Kenya strategic dialogue.
Wow.
He arrives arrested. But
Yeah.
all he came was to advise.
Yeah. Supposedly.
Yes, and he hasn't been here. It's not that he was living
He was
here.
not resident in Kenya.
No. He arrived 24th, following day, arrested.
But people know that prior to coming here and so on and so forth, maybe he's been here before on a different mission.
Yes, maybe he was
But-
cultural attaché.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he's been, reaching out to government officials in various cities and trying to recruit them.
That is a possibility, and that is what is being alleged here.
That is the allegation here.
That is the allegation here.
Proper.
This hasn't actually happened before, at least not in my understanding. But this is the stuff that James Bond is made of.
Wow.
Okay.
For
Very
real.
interesting.
It's evil.
Yes.
All right.
Very interesting story, that one.
We live in interesting times, certainly.
Kabza. Yeah.
Speaking of things that disappear, no projects to show for 1 trillion shilling expensive loans. The government cannot show projects funded with 1.13 trillion of expensive loans it borrowed in 11 and a half years to 2021, even as an audit reveals huge risks since the credit facilities were taken illegally. The National Treasury took 13 expensive syndicated loans and sovereign bonds, which the Auditor General, in a special audit on utilization of commercial loans in Kenya between July 2010 and December 2021, reveals were to settle recurrent expenditure in government contrary to the law. So the money was taken, first of all, contrary to the law, and then you can't really see what was done with it. The special auditor established that although the proceeds from the 13 syndicated loans and sovereign bonds totaling 129,703,842,485 had been received in the consolidated fund, there was no evidence that the funding had been applied exclusively to finance development expenditure. It is noted that once the loan proceeds had been received in the consolidated fund, the monies were utilized for normal government expenditures that are falling due at the time of receipt of the said funds. No schedule is maintained on the expending of the loan proceeds. The audit examined how some 39 commercial loans valued at 1.36 trillion borrowed during the period were used and whether they were borrowed legally. During the period, Treasury borrowed $16 denominated loans valued at 1 trillion, as then prevailing exchange rates, 22 euro denominated loans valued at 288 billion from South African 1 denominated loan valued at 102 million, all from the commercial markets. Now, what the Auditor General is saying is that we cannot make the connection between this money and development projects, and as we cannot do that, then they were borrowed illegally.
Where?
Tumeanza.
Like Oguda would say, it is boiling nicely. It is boiling nicely. Page 3 of The Nation today, it's those kind of stories. On the 9th of July 2019, Magistrate H.M. Mbati ordered the Kenya Medical Laboratories Technicians and Technologists Board to investigate how 2 government institutions produced conflicting DNA test results, yet samples were obtained from the same subjects. Are we together so far? 2 government agencies produced 2 conflicting DNA test results. In that suit, a woman was seeking child support from a man who vehemently denied knowing her or furthering the girl at the heart of the case. The first court-ordered paternity test was conducted by the government chemist, and it indicated that the man shared DNA with the child, meaning he was the father. He still denied this, insisting that he had been unable to perform sexually on account of medical conditions whose diagnosis he presented in court. The court ordered a second test at the Kenya Medical Research Institute, KEMRI. From the court records, this test indicated that he was not the father. It has now emerged that someone on 2 occasions plucked out the original KEMRI results and replaced them with forged documents which showed that the man was not the child's father. Upon inquiry by the Nation, Camry checked its records and found that the results filed in court have two variations that point to foul play. The man's DNA profile, as indicated in the court file, is different from what Camry has, and the conclusion is that he did not father the child. DNA experts would say this. The names of the test subjects are the same. The lab case number is the same, but the man's DNA profile is different. The report is strange. Any DNA expert would clearly see it, a DNA expert at Camry said in an interview. Camry said the man's DNA profile in the court file could have either been cooked up by whoever forged the document or a copy of someone else's DNA profile was used. Either way, the forged document achieved its purpose of stalling the court case and frustrating justice. While the e-filing system introduced by the judiciary in 2020 could have plugged such opportunities for subversion of justice, there could be people paying for sins that they did not commit, while the actual perpetrators are smiling away. After sending in the initial results, the court asked Camry to resend its findings. The institution sent a certified copy, meaning one with a seal and a stamp giving the document authority. But that too was somehow plucked out of the court file and replaced with a bogus report showing that the man did not share any DNA sequence with this child.
To what end?
A simple paternity test, what's usually a straightforward court process, has just been thrown into confusion. Basically, this man is refusing any association at all with the woman and her child.
Yeah, but we've seen a connection between himself and the child, no?
No.
Oh, there's nothing.
See,
Okay,
this DNA,
that's what I was looking for. Okay.
The first DNA by a government chemist was purporting that he is the father, according to him. But he says, look, Daktari, here is my medical record that shows I am unable to perform. I have inability to do the thing that would do this thing.
Would result in this. I cannot add 1 plus 1.
Here is
so it's
a
not
medical
possible.
report
Saying what exactly?
saying I am
I'm
unable.
not like that.
Like what?
I'm unable to perform.
No. It isn't a performance issue here. Reproduction doesn't necessarily require performance.
Wait, Sasa, we don't know what
is the story.
we don't know the details.
Okay,
We don't know the details of the non-performance.
But Sasa ile alisema basically I cannot have.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, sir, I have withdrawn.
Okay. Then court says, no, Camry, this is what you do. Medical research. Can you do this DNA? They do. Report comes to court.
Not this guy.
Camry
It can't
says,
be his
I
child.
know the file that we have and the file that the court has.
A different
Not the
one
same.
now.
Bwana.
We're down to do these things, and we're telling you it's this.
They send a file to court, certified. It gets to court, it's removed.
It's now even more certified.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
Remember that bill that went to the Senate? So it did something similar. DNA changed.
Went in as Jane, came out as John.
Yes.
Imagine. These are the kind of stories that are in the papers today. However, at the same time, there are two stories in the papers today. One is on page 2 of The Nation. My kidnappers left me for dead. And this is the story of Kenya School of Law President Joshua Okoh, who was thrown out of the boot of a moving vehicle to the ground. He lay by Maragua River in Murang'a County, too weak to move. This was after he had been kidnapped, tortured and interrogated about the nationwide protest against the finance bill. Okoh was abducted on Wednesday, June 26th, released on the morning of Friday, June 28th. He narrates that story and it's covered here. He talks about it and even the video story of it, he breaks down. Then the other story that is similar to this is missing JKUAT student drowned, autopsy shows. That's a guy who was seen on videos inside Parliament saying, Mr. Speaker, we are here. And then he went missing. And his body was then found floating in a dam in Ruiru. He was a student at JKUAT. Autopsy was conducted and the report shows that he died of drowning. But there was some blunt force trauma to his head. These questions, many of them, need to be answered. 7 a.m., time for the news.
Spice up your life. Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm La Obaga. Jubilee Party Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni has dismissed the proposal for a 6-day multi-sectoral national dialogue proposed by President William Ruto, stating that it is time to implement the constitution rather than engage in more discussions. The proposed dialogue was agreed on when President Ruto assembled political leaders, including long-time opposition leader Raila Odinga, for the bill signing ceremony on Tuesday, further angering the Gen Zs who feel betrayed by the ruling elite. This follows a week of protests by Gen Zs who have demanded a raft of reforms in government, vowing total accountability on governance and the political class. During the protests, more than 40 protesters were shot dead by police and at least 300 others injured in what has sparked even more anger against the government. Kioni, a prominent member of the Azimio coalition, took to his Twitter account to criticize the dialogue calls, listing previous attempts at consensus through dialogue that had not yet yielded tangible results. Cooperatives and MSMEs Cabinet Secretary Simon Chelugui now says no funds have so far been lost from the Hustler Fund. The remarks come after Auditor General Nancy Gathungu flagged inconsistencies and a perceived lack of transparency and accountability in the government's implementation and management of the credit fund. Chelugui addressed concerns raised by the Auditor General, emphasizing that the integrity of the Hustler Fund remains intact.
I can stand here and face Kenyans and tell them, as we speak, the fund is safe and sound and secure. And we can account to every shilling. No funds have been lost, and whatever management issues raised by the Auditor General have since then been addressed and corrected and aligned.
He further pointed out initial concerns raised by the Auditor General in a letter issued in June 2023, stressing that they were ready for any further investigations concerning the credit fund.
What the auditor raised was able to raise and gave us management a letter raising a number of issues. That was in June 2023. We went through those questions, we clarified those issues, because the only challenge that we faced was delay in submission of that report, because we had still very low on staff. But since then, we have addressed all those issues, and we were waiting for the Auditor General to come back to verify the system. Since then, we've not had a second chance or review by the Auditor General.
The national government could be headed for a fight with the Council of Governors and the Senate over the plan to slash by 5 billion shillings allocation to the devolved units in the current financial year. The county chiefs and the lawmakers have opposed the move as unconstitutional and an effort to devolution. Chairperson Anwai Guru said that they wish to state equivocally that the council rejects this proposal in totality and demands that the National Treasury retains the county equitable share as enumerated in the Division of Revenue Act 2024. And Murang'a residents have been reprieved after the Ministry of Lands rolled out Ardhi Sasa, an online platform that will allow them to transact digitally. The ministry embarked on the process of digitizing local lands records in 2021 and is the second registry after Nairobi to be digitized. According to Cabinet Secretary Alice Wahome, the process was made easier by some of the challenges that were experienced in digitizing the Nairobi registry that mostly stemmed from the hurried process. Wahome said her ministry's aim is to ensure all land registries are digitized as soon as possible, noting that Isiolo registry will also be rolled out in a few weeks, while others such as Marsabit and Naivasha are in the process. And finally, the Jubilee Christian Church has announced a series of memorial services to honor their departed founder and overseer, Bishop Alan Kuna. Kuna passed away yesterday at a hospital in Nairobi where he was undergoing treatment. In the announcement, the church said that more information on the funeral arrangements would be provided later. This event comes as the family has asked Kenyans to allow them mourn their loved one in privacy.
It is with heartfelt condolences that today we announce our beloved Bishop Alan Kuna has gone to be with the Lord. Bishop Alan Kuna, the General Overseer and founder of Jubilee Christian Church, was an extraordinary man who touched the lives of many and had a great passion for ministering, not just locally, but globally.
That's the news wire. I'm La Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Good morning. All right, still dark out, but we're looking at traffic building in the city this morning. Let's see what the Thika Superhighway looks like then coming in towards the CBD. And it's actually not too bad. Some traffic then coming in from Survey through towards Pangani, and we'll see that level off as you get into the CBD. Kiambu Road not looking bad either. We're looking at traffic on Gong Road as you get into the city. And then also take a look at Magadi Road for the first time in a while. Coming past the Multimedia University, there's some traffic as you then touch on Langata Road. Getting onto Langata Road through towards the city, I think you'll be fine. Jogo Road in and outbound traffic today seems to be causing a bit of a pain. Let's look on the other side of Outer Ring where Kangundo Road off the jump. There's traffic this morning and it looks like it's going to be busy for some time. And we're seeing that the Eastern Bypass coming in from the Ruai interchange. Traffic then coming all the way through towards North Airport Road and then Cabanas. So it's all to watch. Let's see what happens as we get into traffic hour. And how about you tell us what's happening in your neck of the woods? We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Ati, what happened to Africa United?
My friend, Africa lost in the Euros. It's unfortunate. They were our hope.
Beaten by a 17-year-old.
Beaten by some European team.
Who are they playing?
A 17-year-old kid.
Spain.
How many Africans did Spain have? You
Not
know me, I'm
enough.
stuck on this African thing.
Not enough, clearly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
So that didn't happen. We'll see what happens tonight then between England and the Netherlands. Let's see what the Flying Dutchman will have.
Those fellows play some very sublime,
They play some fantastic
sublime
football.
football.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Which ones? The Duchess?
The
Oh,
Flying
yes.
Dutchman. But don't take our word for it.
Watch
you know what
it.
you can do? You can actually watch it. How do you do that? You can log on to Showmax, www.showmax.com, number one. Number two, you download the app on the Google Play Store or Apple App Store. You register, you pay, you watch. You, at 10 p.m. tonight, could actually, on your phone, be watching the semi-final match between the Netherlands and England and see who will make it into the final, playing Spain. All of this you can watch for as little as 500 shillings on your mobile phone. It's the upgraded streaming platform for Africa that is Showmax. You can get it done today. Shika Showmax.
Yeah. So that is just spending just 500 shillings.
Yes.
How about winning 1 million shillings, City? Stanbic says, switch and win.
All you need to do, really, all you need to do
Yes.
is open an account with Stanbic.
Just like that.
And if you happen to have one, deposit 50,000 shillings. Either which way, open, deposit 50,000, have an account, deposit 50,000, and then you stand to win. Not just win on a monthly basis. Now, the winning on a monthly, it starts with a delightful sum of 300,000 shillings. And then first runner-up gets 200,000 shillings. That is, of course, if you win. And then it goes down to 100,000 shillings. Now, there is then a grand draw. Now, the grand draw gets you 1 million if you actually win the jackpot. If you don't, and you're first runner-up, you get 500,000, and then 500,000 shillings.
So even if you don't win, you win.
This is how it works, man. And if you're second runner-up, what do you get?
500,000 bob.
Second runner-up,
Oh, second runner-up is 300,000 bob. Even now, I'm getting confused by the second
No,
one.
don't worry. Don't worry. We're good.
Okay.
As long as we get the figure. But then on the other hand, if you have a mortgage, and just consider for a single second, you are going to be offered 9.5% constantly. And that's it.
Biggest.
No up and down, Moody rating notwithstanding, 9.5%. Okay? Now, if you don't take our word for it, please, why don't you just go to Stanbic, call them, find out. They will tell you exactly what you need to do. Yes.
Speak to them. Speak to them.
Speak to Stanley.
Yes. Speak to Stanley. All right. Let me tell you about healthcare and health insurance. The big thing. Jubilee Health Insurance doesn't just stop at providing comprehensive covers. They offer incredible value-added services too. They have a care navigation program. A care navigation program that helps customers to find healthcare facilities and offers personalized guidance on admission process and post-discharge queries. And then there's the pharmacy-based doctor consultations or the telepharma that you can get health checks, virtual consultations, rapid tests and medication at M-Pharma branches for just $1. The convenience is on another level. They also provide telemedicine services, allowing you to consult doctors online from the comfort of your home through various partners. And for those who need it, they offer home-based care, where you can get personalized care at home for post-discharge or long-term follow-up. Plus, there's the family physician program, where you get a dedicated family doctor offering personalized attention, regular checkups, prescription delivery, virtual appointments. Let's not forget Maisha Fiti wellness program, focusing on health promotion and disease prevention. It's packed with educational material, expert advice, rewards for maintaining good health. Hey, so it's not just that you get a card and then you go to hospital, you bonyeza your finger on that thing and they tell you, Sawa, we have gotten pre-authorization. Get a lot if you actually just think of using Jubilee Health Insurance. You can just call a doctor and you talk to the doctor online. You don't have to go. Yeah. You can just go to a pharmacy and you get sorted. All this.
And the list goes on.
And if you're someone you're wondering, okay, so where is the nearest accredited facility, one that's a service provider for Jubilee Health? They can actually walk you through all the 700. Where are you right now? This is where you are. The nearest facility that you can go to with your Jubilee insurance is this one. So hiyo ni kitu mzuri.
Kabisa.
Yeah? Hiyo kitu mzuri bwana. Hiyo ni kitu mzuri sana bwana. We are going to have very many conversations today, but as we do that, Ndu?
Yes.
No. CT had given us a story of apparently this Jewish espionage. There's a person who came to Kenya and that person was branded a spy and the person was then deported and
there's a new dossier. Let me just give you this tidbit. It'll take me exactly 1 minute.
Oh, here we go.
Yes, according to the new dossier, this guy was a former French military intelligence officer. And he has been for a long time pretending to be a friend of Kenya, according to them. Okay. He allegedly has 4 passports. And allegedly the government had warned against the passport they knew of. He came in with a different passport.
Right.
And he had been trying to befriend government officials.
Right.
Okay? He reportedly sought numerous times to meet Kenyan government officials to discuss sensitive security matters. In all these instances, he did not follow the right diplomatic channels.
According to whom?
According to a dossier that has been provided by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Voila.
So the government of the Republic of Kenya knew about this guy.
Yes, they did.
Right?
Yes, they did.
And then he made his way and came all the way here on a different mission. And the mission was what again?
Yes, well,
he was coming to.
Yes, he was actually a military intelligence officer. Used to be.
Uh-huh.
Yes, but however, he was supposed to be part of a team that was offering strategic advice, but the government of Kenya had instructed immigration not to clear him into the country.
And yet,
wow,
strictly, but yet he came in, and that's when they figured he came in on yet another passport.
A different passport. And so they knew him as Chalice. He came in as Shouts.
Yes, now 2 different people.
That one is a juicy one. Here iandikiwe script. Our guest is in the studio. He is the Cabinet Secretary for Roads and Transport, Kipchoge Murkomen. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you?
Good. And yourself?
Mimi niko salama kabisa.
Asante sana. Thank you for having me again.
It's good to see you.
Good to see.
We also here.
Because
I said I'm the one who greeted.
After you've greeted Eric.
Good morning, everyone. And good morning to all the listeners. Good to see you.
Waziri, we last invited you here in December and we had a long conversation.
Yes.
On matters that you were doing in the ministry.
Yes.
And now here you are again today. We're going to have a conversation on matters affecting the country.
Yes.
From your ministry standpoint.
Yes.
And your personal view as well.
Yes.
To welcome you to this conversation.
Thank you.
Will be two people.
Okay.
One, Ndu, will tell you about health.
Okay.
And then Siti will tell you about donkeys.
I
Ndu,
know.
go.
What does it have to do with my ministry?
Transport.
You will see.
Somehow there are places in this country where donkeys actually move people from point A to point B.
No, that's true.
Isn't it?
That is very true.
Okay.
That is true.
But before that, let me tell you about also healthcare being brought to where you live and where you work. The Aga Khan University Hospital believes, you know what, as does many, that you shouldn't have to travel too far to seek the medical care that you live, rather from where you live or work to seek the medical care that you need. So the Aga Khan University Hospital has established the Roy Sambu Specialty Care Center, right in Roy Sambu at Jewel Plaza. And all that you can imagine I need to go far to get, from dialysis to surgeries to oncology, to chemotherapy, all of that available right there in Roy Sambu. The healthcare at the level that you would get if you went far to look for it. And it's right there. Everybody can get access to that. Universal healthcare here and now.
Kabisa. Siti, the proverb. This week the proverbs are from which country?
I am going to pronounce it as it is written.
Okay.
Sao Tome and Principe. It's
Was
a
it-
Central African Republic, yet it's an island nation.
An island nation in the central of Africa. How is that?
Sao Tome.
Yes.
Do you have a different pronunciation for it, Waziri?
I don't have.
Thank you.
In fact, I've always struggled with it to say, is it Principe?
We were told
Yeah.
by a Portuguese-speaking person, it is Sao Tome e Principe.
A Principe.
Actually, that is exactly what he said.
Okay.
Yes, you've got it quite right.
Okay.
The C is
Okay.
pronounced with a ZH.
How on earth was I supposed to know?
Imagine.
A simple person like myself,
Aye.
who's never been to Portugal. Anyway,
Wow.
misfortune comes on the back of a donkey. Now, that is my version of it, but departs on foot. The original proverb was, misfortune comes on horseback, but departs on foot.
Pardon?
Misfortune comes on horseback,
Yes.
but departs on foot. That's the original proverb. But I felt I need to give it context. So I said, misfortune comes on the back of a donkey, but departs on foot. I just changed the animals from horse to donkey.
To do.
Contextualizing it.
Yes.
What's your interpretation of this proverb?
I missed the second part, which is I can understand what he says. The parts. The second part is where
Okay.
I just need an explanation as what it really means.
It comes on horseback.
Yes.
It departs on
On
foot.
Oh, it parts. Okay, it departs.
Departs
Okay,
on foot.
parts is the short. It's poetic for departs. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
it departs
Okay.
on foot. Yes.
Okay, so that means, actually, then a donkey cannot work. If you really have to get the meaning, is that it has to be something that is fast.
Okay.
Yeah, so misfortune comes very fast. In terms of a horse is considered an animal that runs very fast, and that when it departs, it's very slow. So when you suffer misfortune, it can come very fast, but to recover from it takes a long time.
Takes a long time. So what is it teaching us? Patience? Or just
It
understanding?
teaches us, yes, not necessarily patience first, is to avoid misfortune where you can. Yeah.
Kill the donkey before it brings, kill the horse before it brings the misfortune.
No, that because the horse here speaks about the speed of
Right.
of what how misfortune can happen or what it can do. So if it is in Kiswahili, you would say kujenga. You would say generally that. Kujenga, not Kiswahili, but the song that says that kujenga nyumba ni ngumu, kubomoa ni rahisi.
More is easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the interpretation is excellent.
It's kabisa.
Yes, it is.
Kabisa. Waziri, you've been in the headlines of late. Not the ministry.
Yes.
Not roads or transport.
Yes.
Or all functions of road and transportation in the country.
Yeah.
But Kipchumba Murkomen.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think this is so?
I don't think I've been on the headlines in the traditional sense of headlines.
Well, we are not traditional anymore.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Let's just say generally there has been a conversation about Kipchumba and a few other things about lifestyle, what you dress and all that on social media. And which is strange because I don't know the reason, okay? Because this has been sustained for over a year, on and off. So I suspect that suddenly I became a person of interest to whoever was interested in that conversation. The good story is that all this conversation is happening without really consideration of, it is not the ministry, it's not what I do. It's just that somebody got just interested somewhere to say, what do you wear, how do you, whatever. It's a lot of it about wear.
So why do you think that is so?
I don't know. I'm not the first person, though.
It's been about a year.
It's been about a year.
Have you sat down and reflected and asked yourself, why are people focusing so much on my person?
I don't know. It may be a good thing. Maybe a good thing. It's not my first time to be in a situation where people are focusing on my person. Not at the scale of this level, and of course we've never had a social media at this level. But also I have walked the journey with the current president, and particularly when he was a deputy president, there was too much focus about his farm, his functions, his what. So I think, once in a while in a society there comes a season or moment when people focus on those things. And for the reason why I never bothered for the oil year is because I took it as part and parcel of continuation of this political conversation in the country, and I ignored. Yeah, I ignored. It is actually, this is the first time, or along this week is the first time I have made a comment about it in any way. And I suspect that, sometimes I don't want to give myself too much focus. I prefer if people were really putting me to task on like you did last time when I came here, and I hope that's the conversation today about the successes or failures of my responsibilities as a Minister for Roads and Transport.
I think it's extremely important that we do that.
Yes.
But then I also think it's very important when we look at some of the words that have been used, and when we talk about opulence, and that's some of the things that have come out from the mouths of people, that when we are looking at a situation whereby the country may be going in one direction or another, then an individual who sits in a position where certain things are supposed to be done that would hinge on development, such as roads and infrastructure, and that the person or the individual then would be in a stature of opulence, then they would want to wonder, where is he getting his money? Let's just call a spade a spade. Where is he getting his money? And then should we see such flashes of this opulence from him?
Okay.
What would you have to say about that?
Thank you. That's a very good question, Du. The reason being that, first of all, I don't think the wares that people are referring to, a watch, a shoe, and it's not many, one shoe reaches a stature of telling someone that you are displaying opulence. Let me put it into context. A shoe or a watch, is not necessarily one of the most expensive things I have.
Okay.
That's the truth. The truth is that every day I use a car that is maybe 100 times more expensive than a shoe or a watch. The truth also is that I live in a house that is definitely more expensive than the same. So these are attraction to just pull a few ornaments here and there. And the third and most important issue is that it's not like I go out of my way to tell people, see, I'm wearing this this cloth, this tie, this watch or this shoe. It's just that out of honesty kind of wearing and being in public life, somebody takes a picture of your watch and so forth, and then it becomes a subject. And you know why there is only a question that Eric has answered that I've never got an answer. Which question is that, to be very honest, and to everybody in the country, I don't think I am even in the top 7 of the people in cabinet who have an expensive watch. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't even think that in terms of wearing shoes, even if you compare me even with current members of parliament, that I would rank the top 100, you know. Yet there is, a focus on that and converted it to become opulence. You know, opulence, in my opinion, is, the people who display bling-blings and big cars and show off of their holiday places they have gone, their new holiday home they have bought. I thought it was so. But to pick only one watch and one shoe and then play around this conversation and make it look like the whole world now has come down and it is because of one person that I think it is a bit exaggerated. Okay. But I have also, as a Christian, come to the conclusion that if and that is paraphrasing the Bible, if there is something that seemingly takes away the attention, from the responsibilities that I have to my watch or to my shoe. And I have told myself those are things you can put aside and wear something that perhaps will not necessarily attract attention. Of so that people now can take me to task. Because the problem I'm facing in the roads and infrastructure and the demands of roads and infrastructure and transport sector are so much that it would be irresponsible of me as a cabinet secretary to perpetuate a continued conversation of that particular subject by only continuing to wear this one watch or the other. I told myself, let's put this behind us. Perhaps continuously change what you wear or where you wear it so that then that attention is left and I'm taken to task on my responsibility.
To an extent, I actually do agree with you.
Yeah.
Because I think there is a gargantuan task.
Yeah.
In terms of infrastructure, when we're looking at roads in this country, that we know will be able to connect from point A to point B. There's so many things that open up as a result of it. And I think that there are other things that you have said or encouraged in the last couple of weeks that is going to actually bring a lot of uproar.
Yeah.
Whether we're looking at an increase in levies by 7 shillings or other things.
Could be occupied.
Sure. But if we can just get off into it, watch and shoes notwithstanding, that where are we today? I remember when you were here 6 months ago, and some of the things that we talked about is when we talk about development and road infrastructure, there's so many projects that are unfinished in this country. Granted, started before your tenure as CS, but then we are still in the situation whereby they've not been finished. And then to remove the desire to want to start new projects, whereby a legacy for CS Murkomen could be that you finish those ones that had started. Where are we today?
By the way, again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. And this is a very important show. And this is a very popular radio station and a show actually in the country. And so it gives us the platform to really speak to this issue. Part of the reasons why, and I'm sure maybe that will come up later, part of the reasons why Kenya Kwanza administration is being taken to task by the people of Kenya is communication. And communication in the sense that we pretend to, on our side, want to fight like, in quotes, we say fight like a man, the context of you are a father in a house, you don't want to tell your children that things are bad, so you want to appear to, you posture in your house and tell your children, no, we will get food, we're fine, we're doing well, but the reality on the ground, mambo kwa ground, is different. And I have challenged, after the protests and the public outcry, I have challenged myself and also my colleagues to say, there is nothing to hide. This is not our company. This is the Republic of Kenya. It's owned by the citizens of this country. Tell them what their country looks like. When we came to office, and I remember telling Kenyans that we inherited a portfolio of infrastructure on the road sector, which is worth about 700 billion. That's why they keep saying that I am obsessed with number 7. At that point in time, first it was 900. And the president told us in the first 3 months since I got office, reduce it. Let's do away with projects that have some commitment, but at least doesn't have a contractor, so that then we bring it to 700. We brought it to 700, and we put aside the other contracts. Of the 700, the work that was ongoing, which is what is now famously known as pending bills. Pending bills means somebody has done the work and submitted their certificates for payment. Was when I arrived, 150 billion. Okay, that is where you need development funding budgeted in our budgets. So from there, 150 billion. The year that preceded us, which is my predecessor, Macharia, because we just arrived when the new year is starting, the budget was only 50 billion. 50 billion, of which they achieved about 30 or 40 to pay. In the year that followed, now the year that I came in, there was again a budget of about 60 billion, chasing the already work done, the 150. Of the 60, only 35 was paid, or thereabout. I forget exact figure.
Paid means what? Disbursed from the treasury?
Yes, achieved disbursement by the end of the year 2022-2023, which is June last year.
So budget said 60.
Budget said 60, but collections and achievements to disburse was about 30. Now, from that payment of about 30, it reduced the 165 to about 130 something. But, as you reduce, the contractor makes another step, you pay the contractor, you request them, can you continue with the road? So you get the next milestone, they bring back. As we speak now, in this financial year, we have pending bills of 165 billion. This immediate financial year that ended, we were budgeted 73 billion. It was reduced in 2 supplementary budgets, and it came to 51. Of the 51, we closed the financial year only having paid 26 billion. 25 could not be paid.
Because
no money.
No money. We have not been able to raise money. The president already sat us down and said, please, guys, be patient. Let's not do what was being done before by borrowing to do the roads. Let's first fix the economy so that then we can make one-off payment to progress. So the truth is that of the remaining almost 4,000 kilometers of the 10,000 kilometer roads promised by Jubilee administration, which we served in the other administration, we are only capable now of financing. We have a pending bill of 165 billion. That is staggering. How are we going to achieve this in our plan? The first 2 years, the president said, let's live within this budget so that we reduce the fiscal deficit and we manage the economy to a level that can allow us, even if we were to borrow, we get at a good rate and concessional to complete the roads. Unfortunately, in this year, in the finance bill was supposed to sort many of other problems so that the infrastructure sector can be able to access these resources. I just want to tell you that is the state. Now, when people sometimes say that contractors are not on site, it's not that they were on site when I arrived. 3 years down the line, we already had some of the contracts have 7 years pending, some even 10. One like the one in, let me use as an example, Chakarika Marimanti in the Tarakaniti. We went with Professor Kindiki to launch it when he was a senator in 2014.
Let's not go far.
I'm just saying, example.
There's one here behind here called Enterprise Road.
Enterprise Road.
Which has been there for 20 years.
There is one that Kenyans complain in Nairobi, the one for Kenyatta Avenue, all the way to Community. Then you turn from NHIF. And you use Haile Selassie Avenue, the one that has a huge portal near NHIF there, and it has some pillars that were supposed to pass through the Milimani law courts at that place. Again, it has a pending bill of almost 2.5 billion. The contractor had abandoned the site long time ago. And so these are examples. And then therefore, across the country, people, here Mau roads in Murang'a, Kiambu, Nyeri and Kirinyaga counties, for example, and they think Nyandarua, and they think it's only those are the roads that are stolen. The entire country has stolen roads.
Okay. So what I'm hearing here is the sins and lies of the past are continuing, and it's about time that we basically just spoke the truth.
Yes.
And did what needs to be done.
And we face it.
Yeah. Let's take a break. We'll look at this facing, because I do not see how we start from 900 billion shillings to 700 billion shillings to 150 billion shillings, and we can only raise 26 billion shillings.
Yeah.
And then we sit in a country that has an infrastructure ministry and infrastructure projects, and we call them flagship, and for which we are paying 11 trillion shillings in debt. There has got to be questions that are answered here.
Absolutely.
Let's take that break. We'll be back shortly. Kipchoge Murkomen is the Cabinet Secretary for Roads and Transport. He's here. We are putting the questions to him. What is it that he has been doing as a minister? And of course, the personal questions, we still have to come back to them as well.
No problem. No problem.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Baba boy, gas imeisha, shopping imeisha, na ujue tokens bado zinalia.
Msupa, nipe mbao na 20 minutes.
Mbao, like 20 bob. 20 minutes, kwani kuna nini? Na ujue mimi nataka kupika haki.
Jaber, kwani ujui dakika mamilini every 20 minutes, halafu wanapea na 10 million every 20 minutes, na hadi kuna 3 millionaires every hour.
Daka mamili virahisi. Uko na nafasi 3 ya kuwa millionaire kila hour. Usipitwe, cheza daka, ushike mita yako sasa. Chagua nambari zako 4 za bahati and win up to 10 million every 20 minutes. Nenda kwenye paybill 440440. Account, Spice, amount. Cheza na shilingi 20 hadi shilingi 2,000 na ushinde mamilioni. Daka mita, kuwa bingwa.
The weather with SpiceFM.
You'll see cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. It's 14 degrees, highs of 21 and highs of 24 in a partly sunny Nakuru. At 14, it's 14 and cloudy in Nyeri, highs of 20, and we'll see highs of 23 in a sunny Eldoret at 13. It's 22 and sunny in Mombasa, highs of 29, and 29 will be the high and mostly cloudy. Malindi at 24, 19 and sunny in Kisumu with highs of 28, while Kakamega will see highs of 27, where it's currently sunny at 17. It's cloudy at 20 in Kampala with highs of 26, and Dar es Salaam at 22 is sunny going to highs of 31. 5 degrees and clear in Johannesburg with highs of 20, and we'll see highs of 29 in a mostly sunny in Mogadishu at 26. It's 15 and cloudy in Addis Ababa with highs of 21. And at 25, Lagos is cloudy, highs of 30, while at 22, Kinshasa is clear, going to highs of 30 and lows of 20.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, the traffic coming in on the roads this morning from the Eastern Bypass through towards the Embakasi Loop. We'll see that going towards Outer Ring. Hang tight, will not be there for too long. On Jogo Road, there's also traffic, as would be Antolandis, and then at the Kamkunji roundabout, we're not seeing too much there. Kiambu Road is busy, coming through towards Muthaiga Square. Also on the Thika Superhighway, traffic hasn't been too much of a thing today. We're just seeing some of that coming in towards the Pangani Tunnel. Coming out of Westlands, not a problem here. Let's just take a quick look at Ring Road Westlands. That looks okay. And I think we're also fine coming in through from James Gishuru. We're coming into traffic hour now. Let's see what happens. As we do, we'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Our conversation continues. Our guest this morning is the Cabinet Secretary for Roads and Transport, Kipchoge Murkomen, and he's here. We've started off on that note of saying, let's tell each other the truth. Mm-hmm. And we hope that throughout this conversation, it will be a truth-speaking moment. Mm-hmm. You said at the point when you became the Cabinet Secretary, you found a portfolio of projects on infrastructure. That was to the tune of 900 billion shillings.
Roads only.
Roads only.
Yeah.
And those that had already started somehow,
Yeah.
700 billion shillings worth
Yeah.
that have already been contracted out. 700 billion shillings at various stages. How did you decide to come to the 150 or so billion?
No, maybe I didn't explain myself well.
Please do.
The 700, if you had money today, full amount of money, and you did the roads to completion, you would need 700 billion to complete. To complete it within the completion period, maybe 3 years or so.
Okay.
The worth of the total contract is 700 billion.
Okay.
That includes the contracts themselves, and also includes the payment for land acquisition,
right.
so that you can access. But the ones that the contractors already worked and gave certificates, which is now famously known as the pending bills, is the 150.
So
where someone is already submitting a certificate to the roads agency and waiting to be paid.
So work's done.
Yes.
To various stages of completion.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
It was 150 at that point.
150 billion shillings.
Yes.
Covering how many kilometers?
For work they have already done from the 150. It was 10. You remember it was 10,000. Kilometer road network.
Yep.
Some were completed. So maybe for the work done, maybe 2,000-3,000 kilometers.
Okay.
Or thereabout. I actually wonder why I didn't pick their statistics for that, for only the work done.
Okay.
Because some of it, this is the interesting part. Some of it is that the contractor has completely finished the road and done it over, but they have not been paid. They're still being owed a colossal amount of money. So it is in various stages, and I think we can work out those statistics as how many kilometers are complete and not paid, or to what percentage has been paid of the complete road. That's a statistic we can work out.
Is there an explanation why they had not been paid?
That is?
Why they had not been paid?
Explanation?
Yeah.
No budget. What happened, when we came to office in 2013, let me now where my
let's start from Jubilee administration.
Exactly. Yes. When the Jubilee administration came to office, they established an ambitious program called Road 10,000, which was to tarmac roads across the country, 10,000 kilometers. Various programs were put in place. One of them was called Low Volume Seal Road Program, whose objective was to construct roads of a less volume in terms of sealing on top of it, because they are in rural areas with low traffic. It was expected that these roads, therefore, later would be given maintenance money that will make sure that the roads have been maintained. That's another problem we can discuss later. Those roads have not been maintained, and they are now destroyed. In fact, going back to almost zero, yet the contract itself has not ended, or the contract has not been paid. In this ambitious program, that time we were accessing fairly reasonable financing for major projects from our development partners. We did that access to certain level, and then suddenly in around 2016, 2017, it froze. It froze.
It all dried up.
So money now
because we became a middle income.
Yes, exactly. So now money had to move to other important sectors, and of course the always competing interests of the country. When that happened, the appetite for completing the roads was still there. The demand now, Kenyans were now seeing the importance of having a tarmacked road. So your neighbor has a road, the next place is. There is an election that was coming 2017. Of course, political players and the government at that point, now you commit even further.
Yep.
And then all the time you commit, remember the procurement law says, do not procure for a project that does not have funding. But then you succeed in getting the seed money for all these projects in Parliament for 1 year, the beginning, and then the subsequent year, no follow-up to put more money to continue. So you keep starting a new project with seed money and continue. Start a new project with seed money, stalls. But because you have a political interest today, it has changed. You have gone to another corner. They have asked for a road. You start another one there, and it stalls. That was actually part of the mismanagement that has led to this number of kilometers. So this is
all deceit that started in 2013.
Let me say,
with the Jubilee administration.
No, I will not say.
And the appetite for showing that you're doing a lot.
And the demand also from the public.
There's a demand from and expectation from the public.
But the lack of courage to say no, it's not possible.
Of not saying that this is what we can do.
Yeah.
But also using that as well as, we are doing 10,000 kilometers of road and we are doing all these infrastructure projects to justify why you're going to the market to borrow money.
Well, yes, if you
politically speaking,
yes, that's the point.
This is what was happening.
Absolutely,
the justification.
Not just and by the way, I don't want to impute improper motive on those who are leading the country then at the critical sector of the executive and the ministry and so forth. They could have actually believed that the economy will be better tomorrow, it will continue growing at the rate that was growing, and they could have believed that the revenues that we raise next year will continue sorting out the infrastructure. So there is no saying. No, I'm just saying I cannot say for certain.
You cannot.
I cannot say for certain that somebody sat somewhere and said, "Let's deceive these people and cross."
You were in Parliament.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Yes, you were not in the National Assembly. You're not assigning budgets, but you were in Parliament. You're seeing the budget and you are seeing the revenues and all the reports from KRA, from the Auditor General, from the Controller of Budget. You could see that clearly this. Whatever dream they have at Transcom, this does not go with the dream.
I actually believed that we were going to achieve it.
You believed as well?
I believed as well.
That you could start this project with the seed money and you'd be able to raise money.
Because it's very wrong to run away from responsibility. I believed then, as part of the leadership of Jubilee at that time, as a senator for Jubilee, and holding also, some positions of leadership within Jubilee in the Senate, that we were actually on course to achieving this objective. And I think that I suspect that had we stuck only to 10,000 kilometers without also putting other mega projects on top of it, perhaps we were going to be able to complete it.
Let me ask the question.
Please ask. I'll come back with that part of the question.
One of the things that one understands about governments is that they plan.
Absolutely.
They project.
Yes.
Then they budget.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all these things are rigorous exercises that do not take a day. Mm-hmm. And the planning for a 10,000 kilometer road cannot be a year's project, 2 years, 5. You're planning to the future.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it cannot be then that as you're planning for the road, which is part of infrastructure, what you're supposed to do, that you had not, as you correctly put it, foreseen that the economy would grow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
There's this little matter. Of the monies that we spent on our road, we just talk about roads here, infrastructure, that particular time. Is that money commensurate from the Jubilee government with the roads that were actually built and the extent to which they were completed?
I believe that, yes, largely, yes. If you look at largely, that's what I'm saying, largely, because, these roads are also audited. Yeah, they are audited by the Auditor General, and annually we get reports. They're not just audited by Auditor General, but they are also resident engineers, and the responsibility of the agencies to ensure that it's built to the standard. But you will find also some others which are not, and in those cases we have cases with the contractor. We don't want to pay them because we have a case with them, and of course you may never, in the fullness of time, you may establish that one or two also roads we paid more than the value of the infrastructure that came in. But at the moment, I don't have one in mind where I can say we paid this man to the full, but the work was shoddy. One road, I don't want to mention which one for now because we solved the problem. The contractor, when we arrived at the office, had said he has finished the work. Okay, but the resident engineer, a gentleman I have commended him publicly in the past, stood his ground and said this contractor cannot be paid because this road is not done to the standards that is required. And when we came back to office and looked at it, we told the contractor to redo the entire 200 kilometers of the road, and it's ongoing. So there are cases like those ones where quality is required, but it requires vigilance on the part of those who oversight these responsibilities, but also those of us who manage from the agencies that are within the ministry.
See, what I'm talking about is something perhaps a little more technical and a little more easy to define. Now, you're a lawyer by training, but you have people who crunch these numbers.
Yes.
We know the roads that were supposed to be built by name.
Yes.
By distance.
Yes.
And even by type.
Yeah.
This sort of road was supposed to put this sort of tarmac, this sort of aggregate, whatever it is.
Yes.
My question was, we know the sum total that we've spent so far.
Is
on
this
these
much?
roads.
Yes.
Precisely.
Yes.
And my question was, when you look at what a road or the roads and the nature of the roads and what they should cost, I'm asking the question, did we get value for money? For the monies we spent
I think
on
I
our
answered
roads?
that question, that since it is not, it is many roads, many contracts, you get largely that we got value for money, or we are getting value for money. Where we don't get value for money, there are two ways of auditing that. Internally, by the management itself, resident engineer, the director generals, and the ministry itself. And also we have government delivery units also here that is tracking what the government is delivering and so forth. But from an oversight side, you also have Parliament and you have the Auditor General. Auditor General does the audit, Parliament interrogates these audits and can be able to tell us, was there value for money achieved? And as I said, admittedly, in most of the cases we have it, but a few cases where I can point out where you do not have value for money, in that case, we have interventions that come in as a result of the oversight responsibilities. But there are cases where if both of us now fail to do so, we also have the public.
Who has the largest responsibility for oversight?
The largest responsibility of oversight is Parliament. It's constitutional.
If it's Parliament, then what you say cannot possibly be true. Because if there's one thing this Parliament has shown repeatedly, the oversight role was abrogated a very long time ago.
By the way, let me tell you something. When people see Parliament and parliamentarians sitting with the president and having PG meetings and passing policies of government, finance bills, they are under this very misguided impression that they are soft. The hardest place for me to appear is Parliament. I'm going to Parliament after here. It usually is the most difficult place and the best place for accountability. I can say that again and again. The open public conversation about performance of every other project puts each one of us on notice to make sure that we do what we need to do. And Parliament doesn't function as a whole chamber. You have the Public Accounts Committee and the Public Investment Committee in the National Assembly. You have County Public Accounts Committee in the Senate, among others. It is during these committee sessions that we are taken to task. Kenya also, the parliamentarians also know that if they were going to let certain questions slip, the member of public, the Auditor General, among others. And remember that Parliament doesn't just oversight. They oversight using recite information from the Auditor General. So usually the accounts meetings are actually based on the reports tabled by the Auditor General. And the Auditor General tables reports in every department of government. Maybe I just enter here to say something about why the President said that we need to audit our public debt. Most of the borrowing that was done was to certain infrastructure and to a good extent, by the way, speaks to your question. There is a general feeling in the public that, and it was there even when we campaigned, there was a general feeling that there is exaggerated prices of infrastructure projects. And these exaggerated prices are accompanied by, major borrowing. So that then the debt, and Eric had mentioned earlier when you alluded to the trillions of money that we are supposed to pay in debt based on borrowing on infrastructure, exactly your question. Kenyans want a confirmation that the public debt register corresponds to the projects on the ground. Yep. And I had this when our president, as a member now of the Law Society of Kenya, when our president rejected to participate in that session, I just thought she should have taken us a little more time. This is something which, if the public understand, it is not audit for the audit. It's not that audit of Auditor General's report. There are Auditor General reports every year, but those Auditor General reports still has even more questions being asked by the people of Kenya. The people of Kenya, at this point in time, are saying, can we for once now, transparently, very few Kenyans even know the Auditor General report on the debt last year or the other year. But can we, in an open and transparent manner, do one-off audit that doesn't take away the Auditor General's responsibility, but can we do one-off audit of where we are at the moment on our debt and look at the projects, corresponding projects? You may not go to a project, you may not bother, even that committee may not bother to ask a project borrowed for 10 million, for 100 million. We may as well even have a category and tell ourselves, if you've borrowed for 5-10 billion, some of them 50, 100, you've borrowed for major infrastructure, can we just find out whether the auditing of that infrastructure, the value of that infrastructure corresponds with the debt that we have? And I think I still want to implore my president of the LSK to reconsider our position, and they should give us the benefit to do it openly and publicly where we are as a country at the moment, without fear or favor.
Probably that conversation should just be extended into how else would they propose, how else would this audit happen. But then just going back into that,
audit, or the use of the word audit, which is an English word, was should have been, now speaking to my president as a lawyer, should have been interpreted as the Constitution says, purposively in the sense that to capture the objective of the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
The question is, do you feel that with the kind of infrastructure portfolio that you inherited, the kind of work that's been done, what is pending as spending bills to contractors at various stages of completion of road projects, and then looking at the other infrastructure projects, do you feel that what we are paying as debt is actually commensurate with what has been done?
I would not want to bring my feelings to this subject because it has to be factual. Tomorrow, if I put my feelings on to this, because it's not just tomorrow, I'll be held to account for the same. You will call me again next year and say your feelings were wrong. I really think, and I
so let me
with all due respect,
let me rephrase the question.
It will require a proper audit for me to form an opinion.
Let me rephrase the question.
Yeah.
In the last 9 years, has the Ministry of Transport ever gotten sufficient funding to do the projects that it was doing in any financial year?
No. The ministry, especially the Department of the Roads, it has never got amount of money commensurate to the projects that have been not. If you say projects it wants to do, of course a country has a million things they want to do. But if you say for the projects that has committed itself to do, we have been unable to meet that for the last 9 years.
So year on year, there's what is committed
deficit,
on the ground.
Yes.
There's what is requested for in budget.
Yeah.
There's what's allocated in the budget.
And there's
what is then disbursed.
Yes.
And every year you've been running on a shortfall.
Absolutely.
Which means that you're compounding the shortfall going into the next year.
Yes.
Into the next year.
Yes.
Into the next year.
Yes.
Is this prudent management?
I think we dropped the ball somewhere. Yeah.
How far back?
Maybe those 9 years. Yeah. We should have just moved. If we had moved progressively, Kenyans would have understood. Yeah. But once we moved rapidly, they believed that we have the resources to, and we committed ourselves across the country, they believed we have the resources to do so. That is why,
so is it
if
prudent
you look
now,
at the manifesto,
is it prudent now to continue doing road projects when you are looking at raising 70 billion shillings in a budget and you end up only getting 26 billion shillings? Is it prudent?
I'm coming to that. So that's why the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza, in black and white, says that we shall not commit new projects. We will only do projects that have, we will only work towards completing the existing projects. Unfortunately, Eric, we are between the rock and a hard place. Yeah?
We're at a cliff.
Yeah, literally. And the point is this.
It's either we jump or we stay here.
Yeah, this is the point. You cancel the contracts. If you were to say, okay, we are unable to pay it, we want to cancel. You can easily pay half of the 700 billion to a contractor. By the way, the 700 billion, because of the 2 financial years, has now come to about 650. Yeah. So you pay the contractor that money, and for doing nothing. You are now in a damn if you do, damn if you don't. So you rather do it anyway because you have already made a commitment. Cancelling it, you first lose the 165 billion. It becomes a debt that must be paid. And then now you start having conflict around it. So you might pay about 200-300 billion without a road. So the wisest thing to do at the moment is to pause, as we agreed in the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, and that has been the case. We never started new projects. By the way, only new projects that we are starting since I came to office are either projects that we have got support of development partners, where you have concessional funding and you are being supported by development partners, or projects that are related to maintenance or in a different sector where the resources have been raised. No, we can never do any new road for the next 3 to 4 years. Because of the situation.
Let's do the news.
Yeah.
It's 8 a.m.
That as much as the national government claims it doesn't have enough money to employ intern doctors, there's still a shortage that needs to be addressed. Nikal says that instead of the government focusing on the available budget, they should strategize on how to employ the doctors across other health facilities.
We are saying the doctors are too many for us to employ. But at the same time, our hospitals have no doctors. So there's a bigger planning issue. So now, the other thing has been, this thing we are stuck, that interns must only be employed by the Ministry of Health. We need another policy shift. These guys are many. We have to open up. In my view, deployment of interns can be done in a level 5 or a good level 4 because they are requirements. If we said all level 4s and level 5s, whether they're private, whether they're mission, for them to be assigned to that level, they must create positions for interns across the board. And if they work for you, whether you are private or whether you are mission, you pay them because these are workers.
Nikal further blamed the University Act that fails to allow the Ministry of Health have data on how many medical students study across institutions for better planning.
There's a bigger issue here that I haven't even heard the Ministry of Health address. They have a difficulty of knowing how many interns are out because there's been a problem in the Universities Act, which has now stopped the Medical Professional Dentists Council, the Clinical Officers Council, the Nursing Council, even in engineering, the Engineers Board, even in architecture, which says these regulatory bodies cannot go and inspect institutions that are training them, particularly universities, because university has its own act. We don't even know the quality of the doctors we are getting as interns because the Commission for University Education may not have the competence.
Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchoge Murkomen says most Kenyans are not aware of ongoing or stalled government projects due to transparency matters. Speaking on SpiceFM Situation Room, Murkomen said that if Kenyans continue to remain in the dark, the end result may not be good.
Part of the reasons why Kenya Kwanza administration is being taken to task by the people of Kenya is communication. And I have challenged after the protests and the public outcry, I have challenged myself and also my colleagues to say there is nothing to hide. This is not our company. This is the Republic of Kenya. It's owned by the citizens of this country. Tell them what their country looks like.
Murkomen further revealed that his ministry is working on completing projects that were started off by the previous government, despite the main challenge being lack of funds.
With no money, we have not been able to raise money. The president already sat us down and said, please guys, be patient. Let's not do what was being done before by borrowing to do the roads. Let's first fix the economy so that then we can make one of payment to progress. We are only capable now of financing, we have a pending bill of 165 billion. 3 years down the line, we already had, some of the contracts have 7 years pending. Here, Mau roads in Moranga, Kiambu, Nyeri, and Kirinyaga counties, for example, and they think Nyandarua, and they think it's only those are the roads that are stalling. The entire country has stalled roads.
An autopsy report conducted on JKUAT student Denzel Omondi, whose body was found dumped in a quarry, has revealed he died of drowning. Omondi was among protesters who marched to Parliament during the Anti-Finance Bill 2024 protest before his lifeless body was later found in Juja, Kiambu County. Amnesty International Kenya has, however, expressed dissatisfaction with the results, revealing that the body had bruises, further calling for more investigations. Two suspects have escaped death narrowly after their attempt to steal a motorcycle in Nyamira County failed. Area Deputy Chief Joseph Masese says police officers arrived just in time to save them from the angry mob which was ready to lynch them.
Hiyo pikipiki haikuwa na mafuta, lakini ilikuwa tu ni pikipiki sio mpya vile, so kuna kitu kingine kinaitwa kumugumo. Hapo ndio ilienda ikaachiwa hapo. Wenyeji wa hilo eneo ndio wamewashika, wamewatandika kidogo.
That's the news wire. I'm Lea Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Up to now. All right, let's look at traffic coming into the city this morning. We are still in traffic hour. What's coming off of the Thika Superhighway, getting then into the CBD, right around Moranga Road, and then through towards the Globe Cinema roundabout. That's busy, bumper to bumper in very many areas. Let's look at what's coming out of Westlands, going off towards Wayaki Way and then coming past ABC. I think we are fine. James Gishuru, not much in terms of traffic clicking here. We saw some traffic coming off of Magadi Road right around the Multimedia University, and that's going to spill over towards Langata Road. We're not doing too poorly here, at least not for now. The Eastern Bypass also was coming off with some traffic. A quick look at that, and I think we should be all right, but it's bumper to bumper as you're coming to North Airport Road and then towards Cabanas. Also watch and see what happens as we go through it. Let's talk on SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's 7 after 8. How are you doing? Welcome to the third hour of The Situation Room. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. The Situation Room is here every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. We ask the questions, we seek answers, and we want to make sure that we're reflecting the national conversations going forward in all ways. If you'd like to watch the second semi-final of the Euro 2024, it's tonight. England versus the Netherlands.
Versus the Netherlands.
My team lost.
Unfortunately, Africa's team lost.
Yeah.
Africa United lost last night to Spain.
Yeah.
Okay. So tonight,
you still have an opportunity to see what's happening with the Euros in the semi-finals, and you can log on to www.showmax.com to figure out how to do that. Log on, and you can also download the app on the Google Play Store, Apple App Store. 500 shillings lets you watch the matches live in HD, and you don't have to worry about, these things like, are we going to be able to watch the final because of whatever? No. You register, you pay, you watch from wherever you are. You don't have to worry about that. That another great entertainment on Showmax. Shika Showmax.
Kabisa. And if you're thinking, you need to visit a health facility wherever you are, and you're thinking, maybe I want to go to Aga Khan, but Aga Khan, Limuru Road, maybe busy, maybe tight, I may not get parking. Yeah, you can just go to Roy Sambu. There is the specialty care center at Roy Sambu. What building is it?
Jewel Plaza.
Jewel Plaza.
Yes.
Jiwe or Jewel?
Jewel, like jewel, gems, diamonds, things like that.
Eric, stop your...
CS would understand
Why are you
what a
looking
jewel
at me?
is.
You're saying jewel and then you look at me.
CS understands what jewels are. Okay. Diamonds and the like.
No, I'm just saying, I'm not even saying about the issue, the reference to me. It's the pronunciation that...
Jewel or
jewel.
Okay, so
Eric is looking at me and saying jewel.
So what are we saying here? Jewel Plaza is where you find Aga Khan's most recent established specialty care center.
Yep.
And you can get basically everything that you would look for if you had to travel far to get it.
Yeah.
And the idea is that you shouldn't have to travel from too far from where you live or from where you work to access medical care. From oncologists to gastroenterologists, surgeons, across board, folks who are going to help out when we're looking for services such as chemotherapy, dialysis, surgery itself through the day, as though you went far, and it can be bought right where you are, because universal health should be here and now.
Kabisa, and it's one of the 700 facilities that will accept your Jubilee Health insurance card. To get a Jubilee Health insurance card, so you can access all the services, choose the package that suits you, whether you're thinking local, international, you're thinking individual, family, or even group chamas. Just talk to Jubilee Health Insurance, www.jubileeinsurance.com, or you can call them. CT, what's the number? 07?
09 949 000.
That's it. That's it. 0709 949 000.
Yes.
Okay. Jubilee Health Insurance. Remind us today's proverb, City.
Yes, our proverbs for this week are from the island republic of Sao Tome Principe. Misfortune comes on horseback but departs on foot.
Misfortune comes on horseback but departs on foot.
Yes.
Okay. Waziri Kipchumba Murkomen is still here, the Cabinet Secretary for Roads and Transport. Spent a better part of the past hour just looking at the progress of transport road projects across the country. Many people go to any part of the country, they'll ask you, what happened to this road?
Yeah.
What happened to this road? Ask him about, those are many questions that are coming up, asking about this road, the other road.
Yeah.
And he said, today you're going to tell us the truth.
Absolutely.
And the truth is
nothing
that
but
we
the truth.
basically cannot.
We cannot, I'm just saying, I am not saying we will not do it. I have just said this is the state of the infrastructure, of the roads. So far, we have a pending bill of 165 billion shillings. So far, we have a budget of about 50 billion shillings. Last year, we did not manage to get disbursement for our budget. Therefore, most of the roads did not progress the way we wanted. We had a plan with the finance bill to make sure that we get 100 billion from these resources to see if we can bridge the gap, because we had agreed that we negotiate with our contractors to see if when we pay certain amount of money, they can make another milestones of even 50 billion, then we pay in the subsequent financial year. The good news also I need to report is that in the first 2 years, the President asks me to have an engagement with our development partners, particularly from China, who are some of the contractors are Chinese contractors in our roads, and see if they can give us concessional financing support to take care of the portfolio that is being constructed using Chinese contractors. Our efforts in those 2 years are borne fruits, and we got about 37 billion shillings for about 15 roads. For those 15 roads, the disbursements will happen about in the next 2 months. So they have given us up to the end of next month. So if they take over the 15 roads, they will now move seamlessly for the next 3 years, and we will complete those roads. We then take over the remaining balance of those roads and see what we can do. We are having also a conversation with our different development partners that we have and bilateral relationships with our countries. This progress, notwithstanding the setback we got to the finance bill, I want to tell Kenyans that not all is lost. And I just want to say this. It may sound cliche of some sort, but now in the country, His Excellency the President is on top of this subject, especially in his bilateral engagements with our partners outside the country. And this is a subject that is dear in his heart. And we have given ourselves timelines that hopefully by the end of this year, we should be able to report progress on the promises that are given. I don't want to say them here because it is consultations ongoing, and see if those promises given by our development partners can help us bridge the gap. I also want to tell the country that the failure to have progressed these roads does not mean that it is 100% failure. In some cases, we have paid contractors using the little money in some roads, and then they construct others. In those 2 years also, we have had projects that are supported by our development partners that are ongoing, that have funding. Some of which, like Kwanjomfu Mariakani from Mombasa, Mtwapa to Kilifi, for example. The road from Isiolo, Modokashe is already going on, and the contractor is making good progress. I had even personal negotiations with one of the contractors, and we moved the road from Thika Magumu, and is making some good progress. I went to Sindo, and we talked to the contractor in Homa Bay, and we made very good progress in terms of some of those roads. So I have had to convert my legal expertise to help in negotiating with contractors to see if we can be making progress as a country. I just want also to confirm that unique things are happening. We re-looked at the road from Lamu to Ijara, which is 250 kilometers. Initially was supposed to be a Maram road. We told the contractor for the amount of money given to him, to them to construct the road, they must deliver a tarmac road. Good news is that progress is going on, and by February next year, the road will have reached Ijara with a good road for us to open up the Lapset project, and the road from also Garissa to Isiolo is also ongoing.
If I just want to ask you something, because we can. I think we can go.
I just want to finish only this one.
Is this one more road?
Yeah, one more road, and then you can ask me. This road, we shall be the administration. Having sat down and negotiated with our development partners of stalled road that was opening northern part of the country, we shall be the administration in the next 3 years that will deliver the connection between Isiolo to Mandera for the first time. We will bring in 750 kilometers of tarmac road that will connect the northern counties and open us to our border 001 in Mandera, and it will open up areas that were either referred to low potential areas.
You said by when? This is by when now?
In the next 3 years. The contractor, as I said, contractor is already on site, and we are negotiating only the remaining few parts in between. We should do that 3 to 4 years latest. By 2028, we should have. You should drive to Mandera.
I do want to ask you a question, but I just want to preface it by asking a simple question.
Yeah.
There's a Angong Kimuga Road, just 2 kilometers, not far from Nairobi.
Yes.
That thing has not been completed for the very longest time. You're telling us that such a road...
Isn't Ngong Suswa?
Yes, Kimuga.
Ngong Suswa.
Yes. If that hasn't been completed, you're telling us you now want to complete a 750-kilometer road, and this one, just on the corner here, is a problem. And it has been there for 2 kilometers. And it's been there for a very long time.
So as he's prefaced that, let's go into some of these other issues. And I think that's a great way to start. Yeah. Because then a lot of what you've mentioned here then falls under the ambit of the Highway Authority, which obviously is under you, right?
Absolutely.
So we're talking about Kenha.
Yes,
and so they're dealing with those connectivity.
And Samakera.
Right, Samakera. Now, when we look at the roads that people, Kenyans, everyday usage, not necessarily going from Nairobi to Mandera, for example, which I think is highly important when it comes to the development agenda. But when we're looking at things that are happening here, how does that work exactly? Because, of course, the roads board is there. The authorities which deal with rural roads, which deal with urban roads, then handle a lot of those matters. Now, why are these projects not completed, or why are they not even started on? I'll give you a typical example. One road just east of us, which was done last year, today is dilapidated. A year has not even concluded. Is it the same reasoning that we would give that folks have to use lower grade material because there's not enough money? And so
Which
what
road
we
is
see,
that?
it's actually the border road of the international airport, which is a great security risk, by the way. So we have a road that was done. It's called Airport Road.
Yes.
Just here.
Yes.
It was done last year. It was completed in December last year. But today, you would not believe that the road was actually done last year. Huge security threat. Again, it borders the airport.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, I will have to ask, the contractors who are on ground, how are you able to make sure that things like corruption are not taking place? Because it is unbelievable that a road like that would have been done in the way in which it was supposed to have been done, and then now we're looking at a dilapidated state. I reckon that this is mirrored across the country when we're dealing with Kura roads, when we're dealing with Kera roads. What is happening? Because honestly, Waziri, it is a mess. Do you have a handle on these things?
Thank you. Yes, I do, and it's eventually the governance accountability eventually ends at my desk. Of course, there are many layers of people that are supposed to be accountable. Eventually, it is at my desk. The Suswangong Road has been demanded by so many Kenyans because of the Mai Mahiu Road and the congestion in Mai Mahiu. So really, that one has been asked over and over again by...
That's why I'm asking it again.
Senator Olekina, the people of Bomet, Narok.
Yes.
I've always asked that question, and I'm sure it will also feature in Parliament today when I go there. The Suswa Road, at least, first of all, it's part of the pending roads. Okay? So the contractor is owed a lot of money. And I even called him yesterday to talk to him. The good thing is that we negotiated with him. He went on site. And at the moment he has graded the road, at least it's possible. But for him to complete the remaining small sections, about 5 kilometers, he requires certain payment, and he has promised that with the small payment we had given him of the 26 billion I referred to earlier, he's going to make fairly good progress. I also want to come to the next question, which is the airport road. The airport road, I will have to check the facts, but I know that maybe the problem is in the maintenance of the road itself. Let me say this, that apart from the whole conversation we had this morning, the first part of this conversation was on construction, development of the road. There is now the road maintenance levy fund and the maintenance of roads across the country. And if you can give me 2 minutes, I'll mention something about the same. That in the maintenance of our roads, the Act Roads Board Act of 2007 creates 3 agencies that also has responsibility to do maintenance, the Kura, Kera, and Kena, to maintain their roads as allocated. These roads are supposed to be, at the moment, we used, in the year 2016, we had only about 168,000 kilometers of road network being maintained by these agencies. From 2016, we have increased that number to about 215. Most of these roads being maintained by the agencies are actually growing. The urban roads are growing and the resources are remained stagnant. The road maintenance levy is charged on a percentage, not a percentage, a block figure of the fuel prices at any given year. So it was 18 shillings. It's 18 shillings, but that time it was 18 of 93 shillings. Now we are talking about 18 shillings of about 170 something shillings per litre, meaning that the resources we get is still very little. It's not enough for us to raise enough. This year we had about 75 billion shillings distributed across the 3 agencies, and it has not been able to cover all the network. Why? Because the first is that Kenya has now had more roads being constructed by development funds. So if you do like a road now, I was telling you about the northeastern roads. Once we complete, you hand over for maintenance. Even though you borrowed a concession or loan to construct, you now hand over for maintenance. Some roads like Isibania Kisii Road, which was under construction period and maintenance after construction by the same funds, has now fallen back to Kenya to maintain it.
How long after construction does maintenance
It's usually 3. You do 3. The contractor who does the road will do 3 years. And
I'm saying if a road is completed today, Wasiri,
yeah.
When does the maintenance of it kick in? Immediately?
The contract, that's what I was explaining to you. That very contractor who constructed has 3 years to maintain after construction. Then he hands over to the agents now to procure a contractor to maintain. And you have to maintain every year. No, it's a continuous process depending on the state of the road, because it is assessed before you allocate the amount of money. Some contracts, especially in Kenya, are called performance-based contracts. So you give a contractor a particular road to maintain for 3 years.
So, Waziri?
Yeah, and you will be there. If there is a pothole, you must seal. If there is, that is why fairly our Kenya roads are fairly maintained over the years because of this performance-based maintenance.
In your esteemed opinion, there is no reason why a road that has been completed barely 9 months ago should be getting
that is why
just as it was before construction.
I agree with you. This is first. I was going to come to Kura because that's your road falls within the urban road network. So what I need to assess from the airport road is to find out whether the contractor finished the road and has not been paid. Is he on site to do the maintenance, or has it fallen back to Kura to maintain it? And I'll come back to you on that one. But generally, I want to give an answer now generally on the maintenance. Kura now has moved from the previous Kura, which used to be Nairobi and a few cities in the country. There is an appetite and demand across the country with greater urbanization for more resources to maintain roads in urban areas. And as such, the agency is so stretched with little resources. Kera is the most ridiculous part of this conversation. When we worked on the 10,000 kilometer road project in Kenya, we never ever factored in how the money for maintenance is going to happen, because the 22% and 10% allocated to Kera is shared equally to every constituency and largely maintains Maram roads. The tarmacked rural roads have now been christened or dubbed in the ministry orphaned roads. And they have not been maintained over the years. If you go to Mororo Road in Kajiado here, if you go to Boyman in Nyandarua, if you go to the road from Silibwet to Olengurwani, if you go to some of the roads in Meru there, across the country, every part of the nation now has roads that were done under low volume seal. They are finished because there is no maintenance. Zero. What I was trying to do with the road maintenance levy is first, through the legislative process, is to create a fund within Kera, safeguard money, just like it is in the other agencies, of the money that's distributed equally, leave within the agency of Kera some resources for maintenance of the roads. Otherwise, the roads are assets. You will come back here and we say, we spend 11 trillion to do the road, and it is back and it's completely done. When Kenyans tomorrow do the audit, and that's why I say I still insist that this audit of debt vis-a-vis the action on the ground should be done, Kenyans will establish and say it is finished. We will not give an explanation as to why it was not being maintained. It is the reason why, ladies and gentlemen, we had to come up with this idea to say the deficit that we have, we better look for resources by increasing the road maintenance levy, which has never been touched from 2016, by 7 shillings. It will bridge the gap a little bit, because we need now 157 billion annually to maintain the road network that we have as a country, which is about 215,000 kilometers. Yet we can only afford to raise at the moment it's projected for this year about 83 billion. So there is a huge gap of resources that are required for maintaining our roads. And this is, today I said I will come here to speak to the people of Kenya about their resources, their assets, and the challenges we are facing in maintaining them. And I request them that we walk together the journey to make sure that we restore and maintain these roads. And I promise you, for every resource that we have been given for road maintenance levy, we have been extremely careful to push for accountability. We may not have achieved 100%, but we try our best to make sure that this is accountable, and we appreciate the people of Kenya for the feedback we receive on the same.
You know, Waziri, I just come back to how decisions have been made previously and continue to be made in government.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And we start with that. So there's an entire, policy of a government and a program to say we are going to do 10,000 kilometers of road, but somebody forgets, once we've done the roads, we need to maintain the roads. There's an entire program to say we are going to do all these roads. Let's begin the roads everywhere we go. We launch a new road project to show that we are working. But nobody actually thinks, how do we cost these roads? How do we raise the money for the roads? How do we sustain a project once it's started to completion? Leads me to ask the question, so were these decisions being made politically, or are they still being made politically? Did the technical teams in the ministry, in the Kenya Roads Board, in the roads agencies, have an input in this?
They did. And if you go and read the report, you must really defend our technical teams. If you go to the ministry...
So what did they say, for example?
There is no short of reports.
What did they say, for example, on the issue of maintenance of roads?
Yes, especially the ones that are in rural areas that have really been untouched. They had said that government should allocate resources for maintenance of the same through the annual maintenance of budget for maintenance from Parliament. The only problem with that kind of aspiration, of course, the political decision now is made from a level of at my stature and Parliament itself.
Yep.
But you know, the reality on the ground is that once you reach Parliament and you pushed yourself in by faith, okay, that you will raise money, and then you don't achieve that raising money. Remember that budgeting every year moves resources from one priority to another.
Yes.
So you could have the money, but you've moved this year to electricity, for example, or you moved it to water, or you moved it to something else.
So it's political.
There is
the technocrats told you,
yes,
if we were to do this,
that is true.
I imagine the conversation starts with politicians saying we'd like to do 10,000 kilometers.
Absolutely.
Technocrats tell you it's possible,
absolutely,
but this is what needs to happen for it to happen, for it to be possible.
Yeah.
Politicians
the decision
look
is political.
at it, and then the political decision is made that, despite us seeing all the red flags, let's continue with this. Right?
And also,
right now, the decision, how is it being made? Are the technocrats saying, let's stop and do this? Is the politics and the technocrat going the same? Because the Kenyans who are speaking, who are using these roads on a daily basis, are sitting back and wondering, what on earth is happening?
Absolutely.
We have no roads that are completed, roads that were started, no contractors on site. And all this, what's the decision right now?
That is why I already explained to you the decision we've made on the development part. The development part, as I said, we are working towards getting a one-off support from our bilateral relations and see how far we can push to finish the 650 million worth of
Sounds
roads.
to me,
so that one,
you're saying we are still juggling, looking for a solution.
We must juggle
looking for a solution.
That is a fact. Let me come to maintenance.
2 years into an administration, and you know what you're going to be judged on is on the promises that you made and the history that has been there.
I have said this to
there are roads that have started, roads that are not completed. And the political decision that is being made, let's juggle and see if we can, maybe just one of these balls is going to turn up green.
To be frank and honest, is that we made a deliberate decision as government to be patient for 2 years, not to borrow for the roads. Reason being that if you were to go to the market and borrow at that point in time, you are going to worsen the economic situation. So even at the cabinet level, we were requested as a ministry to be patient. Understandably, we inherited a problem that was already there 5, 6, 7 years before us. And to fix the problem, you need money. And for that money to be allocated in the budget lump sum so that you can solve the problem, you needed to solve the economic issue. So we gave ourselves the 2 years. This was the year that we were now to get a lump sum resource and return all the contractors at once to go on site. And because of the failure of the setback of the finance bill, that gap of 349 billion is going to have an impact on us. That is why the thinking quickly is to say between now and the next 3 months, what other means working together with our development partners and leveraging on the trips the president had made and the good name he has made for us, what support can we get at a concessional rate for us to complete those roads. That we have left for maintenance, for development. On maintenance side, that's why I'm focusing on maintenance side. When I arrived, the first report I was given is to say that the road maintenance levy, which by law and policy was supposed to be increased every year, maybe 50 cent, 1 shilling, 50 cent, 1 shilling, had never been touched since 2016 for the last 8 years now. It was 6 years then. And I was told that the only way you will maintain the roads, and KRB had a clear report that there is no other way than to be able to increase the road maintenance levy. Of course, being the politician I am, and being in a serious position, I said, who will make that decision? Who will make that difficult decision in an environment where people are saying don't increase taxes? Yeah. So last year I said, wait, hold on. Let's see how the economy is going to be next year. Remember, last year was so bad that the prices of petroleum were at close to over 207, 210 shillings. So to add another 7 shillings was going to be impossible. This year, because of the stabilization, I thought, let me propose now the increase of this 7 shillings so that we can salvage these roads. And I tell you that there is no shortcut to this issue. We need to find ways of raising the road maintenance levy.
Can I ask
And the people of Kenya in the public participation process said, okay, if you increase the road maintenance levy, you cannot do so because you are going to have a ripple effect on the cost across the spectrum because of the higher cost of living.
Yeah.
And I asked myself one question. So people want good roads, like you are holding me into account here. We want good roads. But at the same time, we are not able to support this thing. So we have been left, because the public participation was the day before yesterday, we have been left with, is it yesterday, the day before yesterday? Today, yes, it was Monday. We've now been left with the task of having to go and sit down and ask ourselves, what way will you cut the petroleum cost on other sectors so that you save a certain figure, so that you put the 7 shillings without transferring the cost higher than it is now at the pump. It is the exam that is in your head. That is my head. But inevitably we must do, because just to close that point, and I've said this, some of the outrage towards myself and the person of Kipchoge Murkomen is not actually without basis. A lot of it is Kenyans who had expectations in our performance in the Ministry of Roads and Transport, led by myself, that we were going to fix roads when we came to office that had been stalled for 3, 4, 5 years. So their hope was that a new government is coming to place and they will think differently, raise money differently, and sort our problems. So some of that outrage.
So when they see you not thinking differently,
when they see
acting
me
differently,
or raising money somewhere,
but living differently, they get angry.
No. Generally, they I know you're trying to look for ways of linking it to the watch and the shoe.
The perspective.
But yeah, I'm saying
the perspective here is that the job that they expect you to do is not getting done.
Is not getting done.
But the job that you're doing on yourself is getting done. That's a perspective.
Absolutely.
And that's why I started by asking that question. Do you understand what the anger of the public is all about? By the way,
I will not sit here and pretend that some of the contributing factors to the outrage towards myself and my office is pending bills and uncompleted roads. I am very much aware about the same. And I'm now at the stage where I ask myself, should I continue fearing putting in place revenue measures that sorts these roads, and 5 years down the line, all Kenyans say the minister was a failure, just because I feared to make a decision that was going to raise the money to do for them their roads?
Please,
I have to be bold at some point and do it.
Let me look at this.
We have to take a break. It's 24 minutes to 9. Your question starts right after this break. Okay? 24 minutes to 9. Kipchoge Murkomen, the Cabinet Secretary for Roads and Transport.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your...
Baba boy, gas imeisha, shopping imeisha, na ujue tokens bado zinalia.
Msupa, nipe mbao na 20 minutes.
Mbao, like 20 bob. 20 minutes, kwani kuna nini? Na ujue mi nataka kupika haki.
Jaber, kwani ujui dakika mamilini every 20 minutes, halafu wanapea na 10 million every 20 minutes, na hadi kuna 3 millionaires every hour.
Daka mamili virahisi. Uko na nafasi 3 ya kuwa millionaire kila hour. Usipitwe. Cheza Daka. Ushike mita yako sasa. Chagua nambari zako 4 za bahati and win up to 10 million every 20 minutes. Nenda kwenye paybill 440440. Account, Spice, amount. Cheza na shilingi 20 hadi shilingi 2,000 na ushinde mamilioni. Daka mita. Kuwa bingwa.
All right, through the city this morning, traffic is not too much of a menace. Just keeping an eye on what's coming off of Thika Superhighway. A bit busy as you come through into the CBD, and I think probably that's the worst of it right about now. Keeping an eye on things. Keep talking SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
22 minutes to 9. Ndu.
So, I mean, Waziri, you talk about the maintenance levy, but this maintenance levy, this maintenance fund, essentially, that what it's supposed to do for roads has been in existence.
Yeah.
But then you also allude to the fact that some of these roads have not been maintained for years.
Yeah.
So what's been happening to that money that's been collected?
That's a good question.
What happens to that money? Where does it go?
The carer one especially, which I told you it's called orphan roads, is because the money, the 32% of the road maintenance levy fund is distributed equally to every constituency. So that last financial year, every constituency was getting about 62 million. 62 million distributed to a rural area to do maram roads and culverts and all that and small bridges and so forth. Then many Kenyans, especially through the Road 10,000 project, demanded that everywhere, every constituency has a tarmac.
I want to see tarmac.
Yes, exactly. So tarmacs were done, but with, as Eric asked earlier, without a plan for maintenance these ones. So the money for care still goes to go and deal with the rural maram roads, which network has also increased, without a corresponding resource that has been set aside for the tarmac roads. So in this financial year, that's why I said I wanted to do things differently. If you see the amendment I presented through the finance bill, we had set aside the 10% that goes to carer aside for maintaining them the tarmac roads, and we are committed to do so as an administration. And even though the finance bill was returned, we will still explore ways of safeguarding at least about 10% of the resources that are raised through road maintenance levy to salvage those roads that are.
Is this a question of the allocation of funds being inadequate, or should we include in the discussion the supervisory roles of the engineers and the quality of roads that are built?
There is a place for the quality, definitely. There is a place for the quality of the roads and so forth. But the biggest part of the problem is resources. The biggest part of the is the resources, because, as I said, the purchasing power of the shilling in 2016 compared to now, it has been devalued at a bigger rate, because at that point the dollar was about 190 something. Now it's about 130. Now you talk about
that's advantageous to us, is it not?
It's advantageous for export for imports, but it's not advantageous for exports and so forth and so forth. Then the other issue that is of main concern on these orphan roads is that it was not planned for, and no money was set aside specifically for these roads.
I'd like to explain that. A road exists, it must have been planned for at some time.
It was not, the maintenance part was not planned. So the planning part, we did the construction. You do now a road, as I gave you an example.
Yes, you did.
The road, let's even use the one for Ngong Suswa. You complete the road, it's under carer, it doesn't have any funding for maintenance. So it's after that, because the plans that were put in place by the technical people were not accompanied by corresponding budgeting in Parliament.
So you're saying we planned for something we couldn't afford?
Technically, we planned for the construction. We couldn't afford, of course, because the pending bill showed that we can't afford. That's why on the development side we can't afford.
Which leads me to the
But in the maintenance side, we can afford if we had made the difficult decisions. Part of that difficult decision is to increase the road maintenance levy fund.
Waziri, I understand what you're saying. It even makes sense.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, how do you plan to build a road and you know from time immemorial that the building of a road, whether it's a maram road or not, that there's the element of maintenance? How does this happen?
It's a bizarre thing.
Yeah?
It's really crazy.
Well,
how?
Because even the technical people in the ministry and the agencies say that. They say we will need X to maintain that road.
Absolutely. Yes.
And then it goes to Parliament, and it's one of the things that are easily
chopped.
So, yes, and then you're telling me that we shouldn't overspeak about the incompetence of Parliament when it's staring at us in the face.
It is not just, it's not the competence of Parliament.
It's not only that.
It is the competing interest of the resources.
No.
Yeah.
Everything we're saying isn't appearing when this government came into being.
Yeah.
It has been there from time immemorial once again.
Yes.
So you cannot Well, you can say if you so wish, but it still doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we know how much money we have.
Yeah.
Engineering.
Yeah. Yes.
This is precision science.
Yes.
It isn't social science like what it is that I study.
Yes.
There are no ifs and buts on how you feel.
Yeah.
So you cannot then say that with all these trained people and all this understanding and the amounts we have, that a solution could not have been come up with for a road that would fit the money that we have and which we could maintain. How? I mean, and this seems what you're saying, that in the absence of this planning and budgeting, we then now have to increase the amount of taxes that we're levying on people. The problem isn't what you're saying. The problem goes back to you and the engineers who are supposed to do this thing, because it is their job to have understood this and ensured that what needs to be done is done.
I think our biggest problem is at the budgeting level, the budgeting and allocation level and priorities. We should be able as a country, notwithstanding coming in of new administration and so forth, to follow through programs until the end. Yeah, and we should not also swallow, chew, yeah? They say chew. We should not chew what we cannot swallow. Yeah? As a country, and that is that's why I'm moderating my expectation of the public, for them to appreciate that we need to now start living within our means. If you see the clarion call of this administration has been, can we live within our means? So that then we cut our cloth according to our size. So the moving forward, the task I was given.
Did you ever sing in the choir when you were a student at some point?
A little bit.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You know what it means to sing out of tune?
Yes.
Right, that's what the government is doing. Because a clarion call for living within our means, but everything we are doing indicates we are not living within our means.
I am saying now,
should live by example.
It is us. That's what I'm saying. For now, as an administration, we should not. We have roads that people are telling us. People are telling me to the face. What is the new road? Including even in where I come from, in Elgeyo Marakwet. You are a minister. Which is a new road are you going to start for us? And I'm telling people we cannot start a new road. We cannot create a new. Let's not go for new roads. Let's first complete the roads that exist. And some even people ask genuine questions. What about areas that were marginalized and were not given this type of roads by the previous administration? Are you going to tell us we have to wait for 5 years? And we have to tell them to the face, let's be patient, because it is this same problem that compounded the struggle we have in the road sector. And I promise you, let me say this, from where we are standing, we have been prudent to ensure that we don't start new roads. That is one. Number two, we have made the bold decision and we have done the public participation. It is now for me to crack my head and come back, hopefully in another 1 year, to this very show and show you from between now and the decision we made insofar as road maintenance levy is concerned, how many of these roads we salvaged that were already dilapidated.
Okay. So far, in the last budget, since you became minister, you spent about 50 billion shillings on roads, right?
Yes.
Now, this is where the other side of the question,
development,
the other side of the question comes in on the possible corruption, because all this money is going to pay a contractor to get back on site, to do a bit of a road, not to completion, but to do a bit of a road.
Yeah, that's true.
And then another one is given another kind of money to do another bit of a road. Now, here is the issue with the public, that yes, a contractor comes back, spends 2 weeks, goes back away, and you don't know. Yet on records, I'm sure we will see this is part of where the 50 billion shillings has gone so far.
Yeah.
The issue of corruption cannot escape
absolutely
this kind of expenditure.
Yes.
Because there's 50 billion shillings that has been spent, and I would say a minimal number of roads that have been completed. From those that you inherited to completion now. So how do you account for the money that has been spent so far?
I think the good question to ask is, since I came to office, how many kilometers of tarmac road have we done?
Not kilometers.
I'll come back to that, because...
Not kilometers done, roads completed. Because the issue would be roads completed.
No, let me just come to
that. If a contractor comes on site and they do an extra 5 kilometers of a 32-kilometer road, really?
Let me just say this. First, of the ongoing roads, I mean, the total number of kilometers of roads that we have completed, we've done, not completed, because a road is complete individually.
Yep.
But a total number of roads constructed since I came to office 1,000 kilometers.
Okay.
Some of that is not part of the other pending roads. Some of it is development partner, like the Mtwapa, Kilifi one, like Kwanjomvu, Mariakani, among others. Like the one that I told you we are doing from Isiolo, Modokashe, the distances we have committed is if you combine that plus the pending roads,
they're donor funded.
The donor funded, and the ones now that GOK funded, direct exchequer funded, including 33 kilometers that we did from Thika to Magumo, which is also GOK funded. All of them come to 1,000 kilometers. Now, why is it not possible to complete one road in the development?
Yes.
Because budgeting in Kenya is itemized. When the budget comes from Parliament, it has exact amount of money per road. Yeah?
Yes.
So of the 50 billion, one of the biggest challenges is that we don't have the discretion to say we have 50 billion, hold the other roads, finish this one in this constituency, finish in this constituency, finish. We don't have that discretion. So the road...
Why not?
Because the budget comes as A, B, C, D. Let me say as example, because there are many contracts. So budget A, road A, let's use the Rironi one. The Rironi, the incomplete... what do you call it? It's
called Westlands to Rironi.
No, not Westlands, but...
ABC Rironi.
ABC, the Westlands there. Let's say Westlands to Rironi.
Yep.
For that road, it's called Wayaki Way Rironi. So from the Wayaki Way to Rironi, Apo, you have about... the pending bill, if I remember clearly, I hope I'm not wrong, is about 11 billion.
Okay.
Yeah? 11 billion. Pending bill of 11 billion. The contractor, we recently... Now, of the budget, you come to the budget, we gave recently 1 billion in this period, these 2 years, 1 billion shillings. The contractor has only been able to go back. And this is, you negotiate with him. Because ordinarily, you should pay him 11 before we decide. You're only paying him a small portion of his...
And the 11 billion is owed for the work done so
already far. Done and dualed the road up to Ridoni.
When we are budgeting,
how much
this
does he need to pay for the work done and to complete what's not done?
He needs, if he gets this is 11 billion, he will now complete everything.
Without an extra bill to the
Without now extra bill. If you get 11 billion. Now we gave him the other day 1 billion. He had to go to Gitaru Junction there and the Kabete Junction there. And he is on site. You have to negotiate. Now I'm wondering, if you pay somebody 1 billion, a portion of his 11 billion shillings, to just go do part of the work, where is the corruption coming in here? Because now the question is, he's not even getting fast what he's already owed. You are not giving him a new contract.
Let me tell you where corruption comes in.
Yes.
Density will come, and I'm sure.
So I was completing by saying, this one in the budget itself now, when Parliament is distributing the 50 billion, they will say Rironi Road 1.5 billion, the road in Kisii 500 million, the road in the ones you were saying in Airport Road, for example, we put it 100 million, like that. So when you now get the budget to the ministry, you can only pay a portion
of what you
of all this because
got an approval for.
Yeah.
But what Parliament is dealing with is what the ministry proposed.
Of course, the ministry proposes a complete payment.
The ministry takes...
But Parliament will say you only get 50.
The ministry takes to the Parliament a list of all projects.
Absolutely.
And a request.
A request for the amount required.
The amounts. Yeah. So it's possible for the ministry to actually take a smaller list.
You can't do that because Parliament also is a political office.
All right,
A political place.
Yeah.
So every representative from all over the country would like progress in their roads.
Look,
number two,
is it possible for the ministry to take a shorter list?
It is possible to do so.
Forget the political issues.
It is theoretically possible.
Forget the political issues. It's possible to do that.
Yes.
To decide as a government
that
we are going to do two roads finish.
Yeah.
Next year, 3 roads finished.
Yeah.
The other year, 10 roads finished.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
It is possible.
Yes.
And then you can do the political conversations.
That is where it's impossible.
Of saying, this is why we are doing it.
It's impossible, Eric,
because of the politics.
In a republic of, like, not just politics, even citizens, to stand in Kenya. You know this conversation we are having here, we are technically a lot.
Waziri.
But to work in the country and tell Kenyans that the money for this year is only going to Murang'a County.
Waziri.
My friend.
Waziri.
You will not have even a place to stand.
I am
And
sure,
then the other problem.
Everybody listening who has used that Wayaki way to Rironi, if they heard that, if they did not see the contractor next year, nothing will have changed.
Yes.
They're used to not seeing that contractor.
Yeah.
If they know that the contractor will come after 2 years, that's something to work, to look forward towards. How does corruption come in?
Yes.
Corruption, and you know this very well, and because you've heard this very many times, comes in at the point of payment.
Yes.
The person who is taking your file for payment so that it's top of the list for this negotiation is asking for something. And this is where now these corruption avenues are. That by the time somebody is sitting in the minister and the director's office, they have had to grease their way into that ministry so that they can get this small payment. And they get 1 billion shillings out of an 11 billion shillings. They go to Gitaru, now
they can't do much.
They can't do much.
Eric, can I add something to what you're saying?
Yes.
There are penalties and interest. Unless we're saying that when there are delayed payments, there are no penalties and interest. So you get to a point, if you're talking 11 billion and the penalties and interest, what do you think that amount is going to be?
It keeps rising.
You see, the question I wanted to ask is, everything that we're discussing here has to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
We have 10,000 kilometers of roads we want to build. In this first year, we want to build these ones and we want to escalate. And budgeting is supposed to be in tandem with those processes. Is that not so?
That's true.
So at what point do we miss the boat so that we are now talking about a deficit of payment when everything had been planned for and everything had been foreseen?
Political mischief.
Yes.
And then now, here, let me tell you something. This is just roads.
So,
do you know it is now replicated in other sectors of pending bills across the country?
Oh, yes.
And that's why I'm saying that this is a bigger problem that we need to face. We are trying to make our contribution in a small way within the roads ministry. I have outlined the things we are trying to do, and I hope that we will make great progress.
But it is not a small contribution. We don't have 2 roads ministries in the country. It's one.
So that's what I'm saying. We are trying to make our contribution towards resolving.
Don't try. If you see, if you've engaged the public, the public, if you were to have some rating like they do in other countries, the confidence rating in the Ministry of Roads and Transport, and then confidence rating in the Minister for Roads and Transport, both of them would be low.
I agree. And it is directly proportional to the inability for us to do the roads.
That has to come with some responsibility.
We try our best, Eric, but please support us.
Can we
support us by paying the levy so that we can do even the maintenance alone?
See, now this is the thing.
At least from a ministry perspective, we should be able to do something. If we are unable to get budget for moving the pending roads, you understand where I stand. You understand the corner where we have been put at the ministry.
We can't run away from the historical perspective in terms of things that have actually
And if I say today that this is a historical problem, we told Murkomen blames Uhuru.
Who exactly?
But it's a fact.
Well, okay, let's look at
the statistics is clear. It has none of this contract we awarded.
Murkomen,
let's look very quickly at
the Jubilee,
the airport.
Who was in Jubilee, blames Jubilee.
I have not rejected that.
Led by Uhuru.
Okay.
Let's look really quickly at JKIA because our time is running out, and we spent 2 hours talking about roads, but this is one big ticket issue that clearly was a problem. It's still a pain point in terms of taking it to from where it is status to world-class status. The issues that we've seen, embarrassing pictures of leakages here and there, and a lot of finger pointing. What's happening?
You will just, if you give me 1 minute to say something about JKIA and another from the port, I'll be very happy. On the JKIA, we came in when there was fast, and we discussed it here. I told you that there is a dysfunctional governance structure at the JKIA, and almost everybody was acting. We have been able to fill in most of the senior positions in JKIA. In Kenya Airports Authority, it is now you had us recently advertise the position of the managing director, and hopefully then in 1 month we will have completed that process of reform. As a result of that reform, I'm very happy with the team that came in. They have done, for the first time now, we are almost completing a proper maintenance manual that is going to guide performance-based maintenance of our infrastructure, so that you don't need to do one-off contract. You will always have continuously improving the infrastructure and protecting the assets that you have. We had a problem with the roof. If you have gone to the airport now, we put a roof on top of the areas that were leaking, and hopefully we will do a small terminal around that area. We also have the issue of number of the airports, 12 airports that had stopped. The contractors are back to Nanyuki, to Nakuru, to Narok, and so forth. We opened new routes, as you know, to fly to Kabunde in Homa Bay and in Migori and Kakamega. We just finished an airstrip in Matulo in Bungoma. We opened Ukunda and extended the runway.
Are you fixing JKIA?
Just come to that, all that. And then on JKIA, I promised the country that by the end of this year, we should have a private investor to come and do a new airport. We are now at the infant stage of getting the people who can come and do so, and the interest is high. I believe that by the end of this year, we will have, as I promised the country,
another mega project.
That will be a mega project, but we will not use. We are not going to use the challenge. Let me just say this: because of the problems that are happening across the country, as an administration, we are unable to deliver our important infrastructure projects in the country using either loans or GOK funding. As a result, we have to leverage on PPP. And I want to tell Kenya that when we came in, the greenfield at JKIA had a case that we would have lost to 20 billion shillings in Paris at the International Court of Arbitration. And we managed to resolve that issue. And now the place is free for an investor to come and do something at the airport. I am on course. In the transport sector, let me say this, in the transport department, I think we are doing very well.
Okay.
Extremely well as an administration.
Top of the hour, we've come to the end of the show. I know you had wanted to give us an update about the port. You'll give us the next time. Come, okay?
Eric, I know.
The public is not happy with you. The public is not happy with the performance of the roads ministry.
That is a fact.
Are you willing to bear political responsibility for this?
I am already bearing political responsibility, not willing to.
Are you willing?
I am already doing it.
Will you step aside?
For not getting money?
For not delivering?
No. If I had the money and not deliver, definitely I would take responsibility. The responsibility of raising the money and budgeting for it is not in our ministry. It's like telling the Minister of Finance, step aside for not being able to finance all the projects that are in the country. Or telling Parliament, resign because they did not put money to Minister of Roads. Once we get the budget and we raise these resources, and you know, Eric, I know this show had been very short, but there are other areas that we've raised more money, especially in the transport sector. Okay. And I think one of the reasons why...
So you think...
One of the reasons why...
You think you deserve to stay in this ministry as minister?
It is not in my...
You think you deserve to stay?
It is not, yes. But it is not in my place to determine whether I stay here or not. And by the way,
but you feel your conscience tells you...
Not just 50%, 200%.
You deserve the position you hold.
My conscience tells me that I have done, not that I deserve, I appreciate, because there are many Kenyans who deserve.
Okay.
The point is, my conscience tells me clear, I have worked over 200% to achieve this. And I really hope, Eric, let me say this for Kenyans to appreciate this. I really hope that in the next show or next discussion, nobody wants to take the conversation in my ministry to the transport department. Nobody wants to say that we have increased the performance of the port, the investment we've done in Tongokundu. Nobody talks at the first time in the Republic of Kenya, a first ship docked in Lamu port that has carried goods to Ethiopia, courtesy of our work. The business from Mombasa has increased the TUs from 1,400 to now 2 million, for 1.4 million to 2 million TUs. Nobody wants to say that in Kisumu now, we are using our Kisumu port because we have a new transport of petroleum by sea. Yeah, nobody wants to talk about the piers in Homa Bay.
Nobody wants that.
Because nobody wants to speak about my success and the success of this administration in 2 years to turn around the transport sector. What I have done in the aviation sector,
ended there.
What I've done in the port, what I've done in the rail. You want to end it because you know the only small corner of my ministry, which is the small problem we have in the roads should not cloud the achievements, massive achievements we've done in the transport sector.
Waziri, thank you. Kipchumba Murkomen, Cabinet Secretary for Roads and Transport.
John Njuguna, they say the move will kickstart the process of appointing IBC commissioners after some of them resigned. Njuguna has asked the government to also allocate sufficient funds to the commission to enable it carry out its duties efficiently.
Rais ameweza kuidhinisha ule mswada wa IBC kwa sababu hawa ni watu ambao independent, waweze kupewa pesa ambao inatoshelesha hawa kufanya kazi yao kwa haraka. Wapeleke hii mambo ya IBC na review upezi. Tukienda 2027 tuwe na maeneo bunge mengi ambao wananchi watakilishwa vilivyo. Na wananchi pia vile vile wapewe nafasi ya kutoa maoni. Kama kwa mfano, Cherengani hapa tunajua inahitaji kukatwa mara 2. Wananchi wapewe nafasi wachangie jinsi ambao itakatwa. Ili tuwe na maeneo bunge mawili katika hapa Cherengani. Ili maendeleo iweze kukuja kwa zaidi. Tunataka maendeleo.
Here are the views of Kenyans following the assenting of the bill.
Kwanza naitwa Jora Mausi, itapea maendeleo kwa sisi kwa sababu hii eneo ni kubwa na pia lina makabila mengi. Linafanya mgao katika serikali unafikia watu wachache. So kwa hivyo mambo ya mgao tunapokaa pia tuangalie ndani.
Naitwa Pastor Moses Jumaboy. Kuhusiana na IBC itakaporejea na kufanya kazi, kuna maeneo mengi especially kama mawodi mbalimbali. Kuna mahali hata hatuna wajumbe wa hizo wards. Itakuwa rahisi sana kufanya uchaguzi katika sehemu hizo ambazo hatuna wajumbe. Na hata vile vile kuna wajumbe ambao wanafanya kazi kiholela. Kwa rahisi kwa IBC kuweka kwa hiyo kiti kuwa wazi.
Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya says the Tawe movement exists so as to mentor leaders as well as raise a generation that won't be scared to speak out the truth when the government fails. Natembeya says this is because it's important to assign youth leadership positions as they're the leaders of tomorrow.
Nyinyi vijana kufikia 2027 mnakuwa mnapiga kura. Sisi huku nje tunajenga future ambayo mtakuja kuingia ndani. Hataki kuambia kwamba you be future leaders, mkimaliza kusoma mnakuja kufanya maendeleo kule nje, si ndio? Mambo yote mabaya ambayo inaharibu taifa letu inafanya tunakuwa backward country. Hata wakati Mwenyezi Mungu ameibariki tunakuwa tu watu hohehahe, hatuna usemi wote, tunasema tawe. The spirit ya kukataa vitu vibaya bila uoga, without apologies, yale mambo ambayo yanatufungia sisi nafasi zetu za usoni tunasema tawe.
That's the news wire. I'm La Ubaga.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in Kiswahili.
Ben low, nin inte, nin der, ayu markati kadikta. You know this character called a liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. Good. And you must blame it on Adam, not me. Because Adam messed up and he was told, "No, you fellow, you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat."
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so traffic this morning still pretty busy coming into the CBD. Let's look at how that's going to go through as you come then out of Westlands. We're not having too much in terms of traffic. Coming off of Mombasa Road, it's pretty heavy as you get past Capital Centre, but then as you get onto Huru Highway, I think we'll be fine. Keeping an eye on things as we come out of traffic hour. Let's do it. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
8 minutes after 9. Good morning and welcome to the final hour of the Situation Room this Wednesday morning. It's the 10th day of July 2024. Kenya's biggest conversation. Now moving into another conversation, but then remember, Showmax is reminding you that tonight you can watch England get a beating from the Netherlands.
Well, that's what you think it's going to go, eh? It's very possible.
It's the octopus.
It's the octopus.
Octopus himself.
Paul has said, well, let's see if the Flying Dutchman fly onto the pitch and do a do on England. And how can you do that? You can download Showmax, www.showmax.com. Download the Showmax app. You register, you pay 500 bob, and you can actually watch these matches live and HD wherever you are. Does not matter. You can actually get it done. Yes. And you can watch those matches and then hold on for the final coming up between who and Spain. We'll see tonight. Showmax. Shika Showmax.
Shika kabisa. Our next guest is here. He's the Senator for Nairobi City County, Edwin Sifuna. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Yeah?
Yes.
Welcome back.
Asante. Last time I was here, you were not here.
I wasn't here, bwana.
Yeah.
Nilikuwa nimeenda
hapa
na pale kukagua miradi ya maendeleo.
Kabisa.
Now we're here.
Yes.
So Ndu is going to tell you about a part of your constituency here.
Yes.
And this is in Roysambu. At Roysambu, there's a building called Jewel Center.
Plaza. You're almost
Jewel
there.
Plaza. Jewel Plaza. Jewel ya mawe ya stone. See, jiwe. Jewel.
Jewel like diamonds.
Jewel.
Almasi.
Almas.
Like diamonds.
Yes.
Okay, so Jewel Plaza is where Aga Khan has established the new Roysambu Specialty Care Center. Because there's a belief that, you know what, you shouldn't have to travel very far from where you work or where you live to access medical care.
Yeah.
So this new center is there, and, you know, all sorts of stuff up and available. Dialysis, surgery, chemotherapy, all sorts of internal medicine specialties, and this is all delivered by experts, surgeons, oncologists, gastroenterologists, available right there for people to be able to go and access, because universal health care should be here and now.
Kabisa. And if you're going there and you have a Jubilee Health insurance card, you are sorted. Okay? Because this is one of the 700 health facilities across the country that are service providers that will accept the Jubilee Health card. There are very many packages under Jubilee. If you're thinking family, if you're thinking individual, if you're thinking chama, if you're thinking local, if you're thinking international for a frequent flyer, like our good senator here, you will be sorted. Jubilee Health Insurance, www.jubileeinsurance.com. And how do you call them, City? 07
09 949 000.
Yes. You are here to explain yourself.
Correct.
And you even promised the people that you will be here to explain yourself.
Correct.
Very good. This is about conflict of interest. And as we begin this meeting,
absolutely,
is there anybody who has a conflict to declare?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
City?
I'm a resident of Nairobi.
All right.
And he's my senator. So that's a conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest right there.
You're also a resident.
I am a resident of Nairobi.
Yeah.
I'm not a voter in
So
Nairobi.
all of you here
have conflict.
Yes, conflicted.
Yeah.
I am happy you start with that. First, let me correct what you said there. He's confusing me with somebody else by calling me a frequent flyer. That's not me. There's been a lot of fake news and everybody trying to tell.
There are many frequent flyers.
Yeah.
Okay. One of them
City,
is Edwin Sifuna.
It's good that you have confirmed that you are a voter in Nairobi, because I remember when this entire conversation began and they said, okay, you are actually the first person to call me on Sunday, and Sunday of last week, and he told me he needs to have a conversation with me, and I said I'll come. And people on Twitter are asking me, why are you going to Spice? We said space, not spice. And somebody told me, even during the election, go there for them to vote for you. Now that he has confirmed that he is a voter in Nairobi,
I am.
And I have a responsibility to all the voters in Nairobi and residents of Nairobi to explain myself, City. I think that, form is not as important as the substance of a discussion. And all these platforms that are available for us should be available for us to be able to explain some of these things. So what I'm going to try to do this morning, I'm going to go full Ednah on you people. I have brought files and all the documents, just like Kanze did, so that we don't have any misunderstanding. I am going to try and explain the thinking that went into the decision by the Senate to make certain amendments.
Before that?
Yes.
The proverb.
Yes. Oh, I thought the proverb went with the CS.
Kila mtu
ana proverb yake.
This proverb is huge. It's the same proverb
for everybody.
It's huge, but everybody has their piece. Now it's your turn.
I must get my piece.
Yes, exactly.
Sawa.
Misfortune comes on horseback, but departs on foot.
Misfortune comes on horseback, but departs on foot.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very true. It's very true. Shida inakupatanga haraka sana, but kutoka inatoka pole pole, which is part of the experience that I've had this entire week. Because City, I also acknowledge I know who I am, and it is fashionable now for people to come and come after me because they think that I have really been hard on them when they have been offside. And they have concocted this story that somehow Sifuna is one of those people who would support a bill that would allow us. In fact, the story out there is that the Senate passed a bill to allow ourselves to do business with government. And nothing could be further from the truth. What I'm here to do this morning is to try and explain the reasoning that went into some of the proposals that were made from by the Senate on this particular bill, and to also just clarify that in fact this bill is still in the custody of Parliament. The legislative process has not been completed, and that we are willing actually, because the Senate will not give you the attitude we saw of wapende wasipende in the National Assembly, so that we are willing to be persuaded that we missed something in this conversation so that we can all be on the same page. If you allow me...
The bill in question is the conflict of interest bill.
Correct.
And I'd like us to start from the very top.
Yes.
What is the conflict of interest bill?
Fantastic. So, allow me to start by saying this entire discussion about the conflict of interest stems from our own constitution, chapter 6, on the conduct of public officials and state officials and how we should conduct ourselves. Now, the thinking behind this bill, for me, was a consolidation of all the pieces of legislation that lie across various pieces of law into one bill so that we can have one document that deals with conflict of interest, because it's not as if this matter has not been legislated before, and I will demonstrate to you here that in fact there are clauses all across in the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act. You will find reference to conflict of interest in the Public Officer Ethics Act. You'll find references to conflict of interest in the Leadership and Integrity Act. You'll find references to conflict of interest. In fact, my position, City, is that we don't have a shortage of law to regulate conflict of interest. And this is a position that is shared by many people. But I want, if you allow me, to start with the people who began all this furor. And what I believe is a misstatement of what happened in the Senate is a letter from the Ethics and Corruption Commission. You have seen this document posted on their website. And there is an allegation here that has brought all this furor. They said in, I think the second last paragraph there, is that the most tragic change by Senate is a proposal to delete the offense of conflict of interest from the existing law, hence allowing state officials and their family members to directly trade with the public institutions they serve. This is where all this noise is coming from. Now, is it true? I want to tell you here that what the EACC is saying is manifestly false. And to demonstrate this, I have brought the actual act. And I want to read to you the act itself as was passed by the Senate, so that you see, yes, the bill itself. the bill itself as was passed by the Senate, because it originated from the National Assembly, and then we made some proposals on changes. Now, if the EACC is saying that we have deleted all references to conflict of interest, and the bill is here before us, I want to show you, this is part 3 of the bill. It says there at the top what city. What does it say?
Conflict of interest.
Exactly. So they are saying we deleted all these clauses, and I want to read them. We did not delete these clauses. They are in the bill. A public officer is in conflict of interest if the public officer exercises an official power, duty or function to further his or her private interest or the private interest of another person. It is there. Number 2, fails to declare and register a private interest that is in conflict with the public interest. Section 9. A public officer shall take reasonable steps to avoid any real, apparent, or potential conflict of interest in connection with official duties of a public officer. And B, disclose details of a private interest of the public officer that affects the official duties of the public officer. Section 10 of the bill. A public officer shall not make a decision or participate in making a decision relating to the exercise of an official power or the performance of a duty or function if the public officer knows that in the making of the decision, the officer would be in conflict of interest.
If they know.
Yes. Subsection 2, a person who contravenes subsection 1 commits an offense. Now, what is the punishment for that offense? If, for instance, I were to engage in this conflict of interest, it is a jail term of 10 years. The Senate did not, and I have brought to you both the bill as was passed, and then there is a schedule of amendments. The schedule of amendments by the Senate is here. If you look at this document, City, you will not see any place where the Senate has proposed to delete subsection 8, 9, and 10. So when the EACC puts out such a sensationalized statement claiming that the most tragic change is that the Senate has proposed to delete the offense of conflict of interest, they are lying.
In other laws.
They are lying. No. Let's go. Let's go to the other laws. Now, one of the things that I started by telling you is this. You want clarity in the law. You want clarity in the law because if a judge is sitting somewhere and there is a provision on conflict of interest, that provision must be clear so that there doesn't exist any other provision in any other law that would bring confusion. And I want to demonstrate this to you because I've printed out for you the various laws that speak about the same thing. And then to explain to you the reason why the Senate deleted the other clauses in the other bills to retain these ones that I've read for you because you want clarity and you want to remove ambiguity.
Okay.
Let me give you a clear example. I'll start with the Economic Crimes Act.
Okay.
There is Section 42.
Yep.
Are you with me? Section 42
of the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act.
Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act is titled, again, Conflicts of Interest.
Okay.
It is here. You know? So if you look at the schedule of amendments from the Senate, you will see a clause saying, delete Section 42 of
the Anti-Corruption
and Economic Crimes Act. Why are we doing that? Because there is already now provision within the bill that we are dealing with on the question of conflict of interest. I will give you another example. You go to...
What does Section 42 of the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act?
I will read it. It is here.
Have you copied what is in that law that was passed by Parliament into this
No,
law?
I will read it so that you understand why there's no need to copy it.
Okay.
You are dealing with a concept of conflict of interest, right? It is not that you have to copy word for word what it says, because if I read to you this, and then you juxtapose with what I have read to you in the conflict of interest bill, you can then have a conversation with me on whether which of those two provisions of law is actually stronger or more captures the spirit and letter of Chapter 6 of the Constitution. So this is what it says. If an agent, it is talking about an agent. If an agent has a direct or indirect private interest in a decision that his principal is to make, the agent is guilty of an offense. You understand?
Translate
this is talking about
legalese?
Yes, it is talking about a relationship of principal and agent. The bill that we have provided for is applicable to all instances where, as a person, as an individual in a position to influence anything, you are being told you cannot do that. It is criminal. You know, so the provision that I have read to you under the current bill is actually wider in application than this one that is limited to the relationship between an agent and a principal. It's a legal company.
Who's an agent and a principal?
I don't know which the
Give
best
an example.
I don't know which the best example is.
A public officer and a public entity.
No.
And a business.
In fact, the relationship of an agent and a principal is a private relationship.
Yeah, that's
it's not a public relationship.
I want to understand in the context of fighting conflict of interest in the public sector.
Yes.
By public officers.
Correct.
How would you put in
That's why I'm saying
who's the principal and who's
That's
the
why
agent?
I'm saying that's why the Senate proposed to delete this.
Why?
Because it has no relationship with the public sector challenges that we are facing. Because if you look at, and I wanted you to compare the language in the bill that we passed and this language. This language is very narrow. It specifies a relationship of agent and principal. This one starts by saying a public officer is in conflict of interest. This section 42 of the current Economic Crimes Act has no reference to public officer.
Let's go other parts of
Mnanielewa?
section
So
42.
hii tumesema, for instance, delete 42 of this. And the reason why we are doing that is because it has been provided for here, right?
Okay.
Now, there is another...
Was that the only aspect of section 42?
No, it's an example. Yes. The entirety of the law is here.
So section 42 was only what you've read?
Correct.
No.
I can read it all.
Please.
Latiff, I have built my career on integrity. I will not come here and lie. You know? Please. And this is the reason I printed this law, and this law is accessible to you on your very fabulous computers there. If you go to kenyalaw.org, so that you don't, if you don't believe my document, you can check on yours.
Read section
So
42.
let me read all of it. If an agent has a direct or indirect private interest in a decision that his principal is to make, the agent is guilty of an offense if the agent knows or has reason to believe that the principal is unaware of the interest and the agent fails to disclose the interest, and the agent votes or participates in the proceedings of his principal in relation to the decision. Number 2, a private body may authorize its agent to vote or participate in proceedings of a private body, and the voting or participation of an agent so authorized is not a contravention of subsection 1. 3, an agent of a public body who knowingly acquires or holds directly or indirectly a private interest in any contract, agreement, or investment emanating from or connected with the public body is guilty of an offense. Subsection 3 does not apply with respect to an employment contract of the agent or related or similar contract or agreement, or to any prescribed contract, agreement, or investments. That is the entirety of section 42, which we propose to delete.
Okay.
Now, this same act, Economic Crimes Act, if you go to section 46, which the Senate did not touch, abuse of office. A person who uses his office to improperly confer a benefit on himself or anyone else is guilty of an offense. The Senate did not touch this. So that is one law. Number 2, I want to show you, there is another law called the Public Officer Ethics Act, which deals exactly with this question of ethics in public office and conflict of interest. You know, these laws, let me refer you to section 11, for instance. No improper enrichment. A public officer shall not use his office to improperly enrich himself or others. Do you see the similarity in language between section 11 of this act and section 46 of the Anti-Corruption and Crimes Act? So if a judge, you see the Ethics and Corruption Commission has been charged with enforcing these laws.
Yes.
And you have 2 sets of laws. The language is different. You are creating ambiguity.
Yeah.
That is why when you come up with a law specifically to deal with conflict of interest, you will see references to deletion of clauses in other laws.
Okay, Senator.
Or amendment of clauses.
Correct.
Okay, so essentially what we're saying here is that what was removed
so
had already shown somewhere else, and there was no need for repetition.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. And you see, what we are protesting is the claim by EACC that we have removed clauses referring or dealing with the question of conflict of interest. Yet I have demonstrated to you these clauses are in the act. Let's go to the leadership.
I want to spend a bit of time there.
Yes.
Right? Because from what I hear you, the reading of the ASECA, the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, and the proposals in the bill, there's a section 46 that is specific to public officer, and 42 is talking about agents.
Correct.
In private and public, right?
Yes.
In my reading of this, it sounds like what ASECA is doing is also saying that a private entity dealing in a conflict with the public is also liable. And probably this is what the EACC has previously used.
What we are trying
Let me finish, then you can explain. When we see, for example, the Director of Public Prosecutions taking people to court on matters of corruption, whether they are private entities that dealt with the public office, or whether it's a public officer who is then accused of abusing office, then that is contained in the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act.
Yes.
Right? Where you're saying you, as an entity, acting directly or with an agency, because of the corruption that has been found to have been committed, you're also liable.
Yes.
And you're taken to court.
Yeah.
If you delete that, does that not affect that provision?
No, it doesn't, because the economic crime does not go away when you have removed this description of the agency relationship is a whole legal concept that I don't know if I have time to explain this thing. But the truth of the matter is the conflict we are dealing with and the discussion in the public space is not about private entities. If you I'll give you an example. If as a private entity, for instance, you engage in bid rigging, yeah, you are doing placing a bid for a public tender and you engage in bid rigging or collusion or the economics and anti-corruption laws already have criminal sanction for that conduct. So if you are dealing with conflict of interest, the conflict of interest that we are dealing with here is in the public space. And City, I want us to have...
Eric.
Yeah, sorry. I want us to have a conversation about what the EACC is telling the public. Because the EACC claims that because of these amendments in the Senate, the war on corruption is lost. I want us to be very honest with each other, City. We have all these laws in place right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are people in power doing business with government?
Yes, they are.
Are they doing business with government?
Yes.
How? How are they able to do business with government? How many people have you had convicted because the law exists? I can show you all these laws here. They are here. Section 20, this is the Leadership and Integrity Act. Which other example can I give you?
So you're saying we don't even need this bill?
We actually do not.
Even the bill that you're dealing with?
We actually do not, because the problem in Kenya is not the absence of laws. And I want to read to you one statement from the Public Service Commission, because when this bill came for public participation, all these stakeholders actually came and gave views to the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of the public, of the Senate. I want to read you the last statement from, this is the submission, a memorandum of the Public Service Commission on the Conflict of Interest Bill 2023 to the Senate Standing Committee on Legal Affairs and Human Rights. There's a paragraph there that says conclusion. The Commission reiterates, as it did before the National Assembly, that it is more practical to amend the existing legislation and address any identified gaps, as opposed to enacting a new law which merely replicates what already exists. And this has also been our position. The truth is, even with the existing laws, what the EACC should be telling us is we need to tighten here or tighten there so that we are able to better implement some of these things. That's what I'm saying. This is what we are trying to do.
That's not what you did.
This is what we're trying to do.
What you've gone ahead
is
actually,
just a minute,
by the number
Eric,
of amendments that you've made,
yes,
you have written the law.
This is what we need to understand.
If you're buying the idea of we do not need a new law,
just a minute.
Why amend that law? Why pass the bill in the first place?
That's what we are saying. If you just listen to what the PSC is telling the Senate,
yes,
that we should avoid replicating what already exists. So if you see the memorandum of amendments, I wish really Eric, you would listen to what I'm telling you. When you see all these deletions of other places, of laws in other places, or deletion of clauses in the Act itself, I'll give you the best example on this question of wealth declaration. There is another claim by EACC that we have now said we will no longer be declaring our wealth. You know, it is a false claim. It is demonstrably false. So in the bill itself, there is a section that was proposed to deal with declaration of wealth. So that is from clauses 31, 31A, 31B of the bill. Now, this is the bill. Again, where is the bill?
It's under there.
Yes, this is the bill. So if you see the clauses that we deleted, this is starting from clause 30, is on compliance measures. This is the reporting, the declaration of assets and liabilities for all public officers. And I want to take you to the Public Officer Ethics Act. It has a more elaborate procedure of declaration of wealth by all of us, including the forms to be used. So for us, we are saying, why are you duplicating? And in fact, you're bringing in inferior provisions to already existing laws. So why don't we retain the existing laws? That is all we are doing, my brother Eric. So I want to be very categorical here, that it is okay to have a discourse, but we must be factual with the discourse that we are engaging in. For you to go and sensationalize things, because some of us, our history is known. My legislative history is known. Every single time I have stood up to do what is right. Latiff, you know that as SG of ODM, I am very, very familiar with the position of the coalition and my party on some of these things. It was a stated position of the Azimio coalition during the campaigns. It is in our manifesto that, in fact, if we were to form government, none of us, no public officer would do business with government. So there is no way Sifuna, as SG of ODM, would go and do that. So what we have done as Senate, we have invited the EACC. We are going to invite them at the end of the motion that is before the Senate now discussing the question of the state of the nation, to come and have a conversation with us if in fact we can be persuaded that there is need for all of these laws to exist, all these duplicitous laws to exist, then we will be convinced or persuaded.
Eric, are we going to a break?
Yes, we are. Okay. Yeah, it's 27 minutes to
You
10.
are tired of all these clauses?
Yeah?
No,
I am
not
not.
yet, not yet.
We have just started. It's 27 minutes to 10. Kenya's biggest conversation is hosting Senator Edwin Sifuna, Senator for Nairobi City County, and this is in response to even the public outcry and the outcry from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission on how the Senate went ahead and processed the, what's it called, that bill?
Conflict of interest.
That one. The Conflict of Interest Bill. Several amendments made in the National Assembly. It was taken to the Senate. The Senate made several other amendments, and there's been outcry on the amendments specifically that have come out of the Senate. Discussing that.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can't run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Okay, what's happening on the roads is that traffic is now easing off on all the major roads, whether you're talking about the Thika Superhighway, Jogoo Road heading into town, Ngong Road into town, or Langata Road into town. And also the busy parts of the road now are those that as you get closer into the CBD. That's Uhuru Highway, Wayaki Way into town. And also if you are thinking of Muranga Road into the Globes in a roundabout, but there's nothing major to talk about.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So the conversation continues, and our guest is Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna on the issue of the conflict of interest bill and how the Senate then treated this bill and dealt with the bill. I was asking you the question as we were going to the break.
Yeah.
You had explained it a bit. Please just expound on it. What is the effect of amending clauses of other laws that have been in existence. For example, there's a clause on the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act. There's another clause on the Public Officer Ethics Act, and you've deleted those at the same time. Were they in conflict? Okay, right now, are they in conflict because this is still a bill, not a law?
Yeah, so what you are trying to do is to amalgamate the law on a single issue. If you have 3 separate laws that all make reference to conflict of interest, you want to bring them under one law. It's a cleanup of the legislative process, you know. So if the Leadership and Integrity Act has a section, I'll give you an example of misuse of official information. This is something that is under the Leadership and Integrity Act. It is also in this bill. Section 13, a public officer shall not directly or indirectly use or allow any person under the officer's authority to use any information that is obtained in the course of performing official duties and is not available to the public to improperly further or seek to further the interest of the officer or the interest of another person. A person who commits who contravenes subsection 1 commits an offence liable to 10 years in jail. So if
so this
I don't know how I can explain it.
This is contained in a law.
Yes.
That was passed by Parliament.
Correct.
Parliament is processing another
law. Yes.
So would Parliament then not just say, we have picked this part of that law, brought it into this law, and now we say delete? It's contained
this is
here.
the point.
Because the issue that I'm seeing here, Senator, is that Parliament comes up with new language to use in this law and says delete that other law that we had put in place with different language.
Yes.
Are you saying that language was wrong?
No, it's not about the language being
Why
wrong.
would you not just take that?
The best example is if you look at the Leadership and Integrity Act, it talks about the entire conduct of a public officer, right?
Yes.
The entire conduct. But then the EACC in its wisdom says we want to narrow down to have specific legislation for one particular conduct, which they're saying is a key cog in the fight against corruption. They say it is what? Conflict of interest.
Yes.
So what do? If we were to do what you are saying, it would mean that I cut section 42 of the Anti-Corruption and Economics, right? Paste it there. Then I cut another section from the Leadership and Integrity, which talks about, and paste it there. Then you cut another section from the Public Officer Ethics Act and paste it there. Talking about the same thing. That is not how you legislate. Because you will have 3. Can you imagine how that bill would look like? Can you imagine if you are reading section 42 from the Act I've read you and the other one and the other one, and they are now part of the same law? What you need to do is to come up with a clause that captures the spirit of the intent of the law. And then that will be able to cover all the scenarios that are anticipated in those 3.
The fear, even in the reaction and response from the public, and even from what we saw in the statement by the EACC, is that the language used in part here, and another part there, another part there, and then removing those other provisions of the law, this language then weakens the effect of it.
So I have read to you the language. I have read to you the language in subsection 8, 9, 10. I have read to you subsection 12 on preferential treatment, misuse of official information, section 14 on undue influence, because you see, for me, I have said here, I am willing to be persuaded. We have presented to you the thinking that went into some of these proposals and amendments. The bill making process is not complete. We would be more than happy, and this is why we are inviting EACC to come and have this conversation with us, that you are saying if the language that has been used has watered down the effect of the bill, we can have that conversation. But to go and lie to the public that we have actually deleted references to public conflict of interest in a manner that now allows Sifuna to do business with Parliament or with government is very wrong. That is why we are saying. And by the way,
let me give you an example.
Let me just finish that point.
The new law
by giving you something in the Leadership and Integrity. No, it's actually the Public Officer Ethics Act, something that actually binds the EACC themselves. It's about telling the truth. You cannot be the police of people who are misbehaving and you yourself you misbehave. The law is that this is section 19 of the Public Officer Ethics Act, misleading the public. That's the crime. A public officer shall not knowingly give false or misleading information to members of the public or to any other public officer. So the EACC themselves are in contravention of the law by giving misleading information to the public.
Maybe they don't know. They're not doing
How do you not know? How do you not know? The EACC exists solely
All
for
right.
this.
If they don't know, then to what end do you think? Why
Now,
do you think then that this statement was issued?
That is a very good question. You see, we are in a very interesting time. And we have seen a few things that are being sensationalized to feed the public anger. Yesterday, we woke up and somebody had posted a video of, I think it was Jeremiah Kioni, claiming that there is a proposal in the elections amendment laws to have vehicles as polling stations. And I know for a fact, I have the bill before the Senate in front of me. I look at that section and there's no reference to vehicles as polling centers. But it is something that is riling up the public. The other day, the newspapers, actually there was news media, woke up and said, MPs want to add themselves salaries. Latiff, we have to have honest conversations in this country. No member of parliament has the right to determine their own salaries. The Gazette notice that people were talking about and was sensationalized by media was from September of 2013. By the time we were going to the election, by the way, there was a Gazette notice showing how much each member of parliament was going to earn. The September 2013, which was 2023 one, was a schedule of salary increases of 14,000 shillings. But the perception, the way the news is presented, is that Sifuna has sat somewhere and decided he's going to add himself 14,000 Kenya shillings. There is, I don't know what is going on, but people need to feed the anger of the public. And this anger is being directed at all of us. And yet sometimes the anger is misinformed. So our responsibility is...
So what do you think? Just to answer City's question. Why would the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, a commission that wakes up on a daily basis to fight corruption in all forms, the commission that supported the introduction of this bill to Parliament, why would they...
I can only speculate, and I want to give you an example. When we were having this debate about the state of the nation, of course the EACC came under very sharp criticism. And I have been the focus of all these attacks on this bill because I also brought out the question, all these laws exist, Latiff. How is it possible that nobody has been jailed, nobody has been successfully prosecuted for any of the things that we hear happening? I was doing research yesterday on the amount of money that we have lost from the cases that have been withdrawn by the EACC and the DPP over the past 5 years, almost 20 billion shillings seat.
By the EACC or by the DPP?
Let me tell you, when it comes to economic crimes, it is the EACC that investigates. And I'm telling you, if you look at many of those cases, they are being withdrawn or discontinued because the DPP and the courts say there is lack of sufficient evidence. I want to give you examples. Aisha Jumwa, 19 million shillings, NGCDF. Who is supposed to do that prosecution? EACC. The investigation is by EACC, prosecution by DPP. Right. The DPP works with what the investigator has brought. The DPP does not manufacture evidence. Sonko, 20 million money laundering. Ferdinand Waititu, 588 million. Former KPLC MD Joe Sang, 1.9 billion charge, dropped. Former KPLC MD Samuel Kishuru.
Is that the EACC or is that the DPP?
These are economic crimes. Under the law. There is only one institution that has the mandate of investigating.
Who withdraws the cases?
So that's what I'm saying. The DPP withdraws for lack of evidence because of the work of the investigator.
Are there instances in all those cases that you mentioned where the EACC has objected to the withdrawal of the cases?
I have never seen an objection.
Oh, they exist.
I have never seen an objection.
They do exist.
Now, let me give you an example that I participated.
I want to just move the conversation.
Let me finish this point, Eric. I participated in one of those cases. Before I became a legislator, I used to do private practice. There was a time when Gladys Sholay was charged with corruption. Yeah? And as part of the legal team...
Was that when she was in the judiciary?
Yes, when she was a registrar of a judiciary. From the beginning to the end of the case, the EACC has lined up, I think, 16 witnesses. And we say, okay, let's go and have a hearing on this matter.
What role were you playing in that case?
I was a lawyer.
And who are you representing?
I was representing Gladys. I was one of our legal teams.
Yes.
So we go from witness number 1, witness number 2, witness number 3, witness number 4, witness number 5. We get to witness number 9. And none of these people is coming to tell the court that this is where the money was stolen or this is where the wrongdoing was.
So what were they coming
Then you ask the EACC, why are you presenting these people to court if you do not have the evidence? The truth of the matter is they are under pressure to process some cases to appear like they are doing something. And yet they are not doing anything. So with all these laws in place, when the mirror is cast on them and the Kenyans are asking, with all the legal tools that you've been given, how are you not able to prosecute some of these cases? You hear cases, what do you mean by objections? At the end of the day, if you have not presented evidence that is tangible, that can actually sustain a conviction, you have not done your job as an investigator.
Senator, so then let me ask you. This bill came to Parliament from the Cabinet.
Yes.
So it has come from the government into Parliament. The National Assembly has dealt with it. The Senate has now dealt with it. Are you saying, is your position that this bill was unnecessary because you have other bills in place that are sufficiently dealing with the issue of conflict of interest?
I believe so, and it is a position that many share, including the Public Service Commission, whose memorandum I've read to you.
Okay, so
that there is no excuse. You see, if you come to us as legislators and say that the existing law, this is the gap we have identified, can we tighten it here? We will support you, you know. But for you to come and make allegations such as the ones that are being made and spoiling people's names, I mean, it is very unfair.
So you believe that we do not need
I believe
law.
that we do not need, because
So
even you have identified a problem.
Why not vote it out?
That's a question. This is the question that we're coming to. Yeah, and I told you that I am here to explain the thinking. I was convinced by the many stakeholders, by our own Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs, that this was the best way to proceed, that we clean up all the laws, have one single law, and be able to proceed with this question of conflict of interest. I am also willing to be persuaded that we can fall back to the existing laws, because in my view, and in the view of the Public Service Commission and the other stakeholders, we do not need a new law. So this is a conversation we need to have. You don't need to go out there in the public to feed them with lies, to just malign people and paint us as, now people are saying we are all the same.
But my question hasn't been answered.
It's quite ridiculous.
Edwin, my question has not been answered.
Which one?
Simple. Why on earth would a respectable institution like EACE, if I'm to take your word for it, peddle lies?
I don't speak for the EACC. I can only speculate. I can only speculate and say they were not very pleased with some of the debate from the floor of the House, especially from me, because I made reference to the Obado case, where, in the asset recovery case, there was a deal. Somebody has been accused of stealing 1.2 billion shillings. Then you enter into a plea bargain until he returns 300 million and the case is dropped. So when we make those references, because in my mind, and I will repeat this again, the institution charged with dealing with economic crimes, you cannot point fingers elsewhere. It is your responsibility to make sure that you bring these people to book. So they thought that we were attacking them unfairly. But it is a conversation to be had. I have given you all these examples. What do you think it does to the public psyche to know that out of all these people, there is not even a single one who has actually been successfully prosecuted? Regarding Gachagua, 7.3 billion shillings charge, withdrawn. Former Pipeline MD Charles Tanui, 30 million. Former National Olympics boss Stephen Soy, 55 million, withdrawn. Recently, the case on advertising, government advertising agency, Chebitwe, withdrawn. What they need to do is to explain to the public where the problem is.
Senator, I think, can we shift gears just a little bit? Because quite a lot has happened over the last couple of days. We're looking at yesterday where the president then, signed into, looking at the IEBC in order to now hire commissioners, right?
Yes.
You've been vocal in this conversation whereby we're talking about the political atmosphere and how or when politicians should not be involved when it comes to the IEBC into now elections. I've been of the opinion, and I think many have been, that politicians should be very, very far away from an independent body like the IEBC. Because how then do you debate or dictate who the referee of a competition will be, and even along the line being able to tell them what to do? Has that thought shifted from you in any way?
No, it hasn't shifted. And I don't agree with you that political players can, of necessity, stay away from who the ref is. You were talking about the England game, tonight.
Tonight, yes.
What do you think the other team would feel if the referee is from England? There would be objections. They have views on this issue. You understand?
Yes.
So it is not us as political leaders going to choose the IEBC. What we did is...
Sorry, repeat that statement again?
We are not, as politicians, the ones going to choose the IEBC commissioners. Our role ends with legislation. And if you remember the initial fight, was that the initial panel, the way that it had been put together, we felt it was skewed because it was not representative of all the political interest in the country and all the sectors in the country. even the people from the religious groups and people who belong to non-parliamentary political parties wanted to have a say in the constitution of the IBC, because this is one of the bodies that we must get right. So how did it get here? The initial bill was brought a lot of heat. It was one of the issues that we had during the Maandamano organized by us last time. And we are happy that we were able to convince our colleagues from Kenya Kwanza that when it comes to a referee, it is better for there to be broad consensus on how that referee is arrived at. So you will see right now, there is a representation from professional bodies, there is a representation from the parties, even non-parliamentary political parties through the, PPLC, have gotten a slot. So
who decides which people in all these entities?
Yes, now that is the legislation. The legislative part, it is Parliament that sets and says the panel will be represented by so and so and so and so and so. So you are trying to cover as broad interest across the nation as possible. Okay. So you will see representatives of the faiths, your representatives of... Yes. Even us as Azimio, with all the support we have in the country, as the minority side, we are only going to get 2 representatives. Okay. Yeah, you understand that.
So we have 2 representatives of the faiths.
Yes.
What interests are they bringing to the table?
What do you mean?
Just answer the question.
They are faith leaders are leaders in this country. So they have a constituency.
What interest is being represented here?
I don't know how I can explain that. Because these are leaders of the faith, the church has a say in the way
you've been very good at explaining the thinking. I'm asking you to explain the thinking.
Yeah, this is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm trying to do. You see, when you come up with an organization, a panel to select as an entity as important as IBC, you are trying to look at the society and see which groups represent who. And these groups are usually the same. Whenever these discussions come up, you will see professional bodies wanting to be represented, the church, the youth, women, PWDs. It is always there. Okay. So it is understood that the religious fraternity represents certain interests that maybe could be separate from the political parties, for instance.
Okay, so 2 from there.
Yeah.
The accountants.
ISPAC.
Yeah.
Yes.
Has 1 representative.
Yes.
Why the accountants? Why not engineers?
No, why not teachers?
Why not teachers?
Well,
yes.
This is the thinking. This is the conversation. This is the conversation we were having, and we're saying, first of all, the panel has a finite number of slots, right?
Yes.
You cannot have everyone there. And what you're looking for is a representation of professional bodies, for instance. So it could be accountants, it could be teachers, but you can't have all of them because of the space.
Who are more important, accountants or teachers?
So I honestly do not have an answer for that.
Yeah. So
I honestly do not
pick
know.
ISPAC?
I honestly would not know.
And not engineers.
Yes, this is a question that we grapple with, and even
saying the same way you have a politician's caucus saying maybe a caucus that represents, or a rotational thing that represents interests in the professions. Lawyers are also there. 1 representative. 5 representing political interests. 2 from the Parliamentary Service Commission. 3 from the Political Parties Liaison Committee. So the majority are representing direct political interest. Candidates.
But the IBC is a political body.
Yes,
this is the thing we need to agree, my brother.
Yes.
If you have Kenya Rugby Union.
Yes.
Kenya Rugby Union.
Yes.
And then we fill it with nuns from the Catholic Church. What have you done? You must have relevance to the process. We're not saying that other Kenyans or other stakeholders are not.
Nuns don't like
no,
rugby.
I'm not saying. I have to use the most absurd example so that you understand that it would not look proper.
It's extremely absurd. So here's the thing.
It is an example.
Here's the thing, Senator. So why the players, like you've just given an example, England, Netherlands tonight, right? None of those are involved in selecting the ref for tonight.
But they are interested.
They are interested, but they will not be involved in selecting.
They will find out the
not
result
be
when
involved
they get
in selecting.
No, they will not be involved.
Right.
But that's what we are saying.
At no point.
It was not left only to political players.
A majority.
And one of the things,
a majority.
It's not a majority.
5 out of 9 is a majority.
How
what
many
math are we doing?
No, we are doing political parties. We are saying political parties.
No.
Political interest.
It's interest equals influence.
All right, political parties. Okay. Political
so
parties.
Let's do this.
Edwin.
Let's do this.
Edwin.
Let's do this.
Political parties.
Let's do this.
Political parties. One member representing majority coalition in a house.
Yes.
Political parties, yes or no?
Yes. How many political parties are those?
One member representing minority coalition in the house. Political party or not?
Political party.
3 members from the political parties liaison committee. Political parties or not?
No, they are not 3. They are not 3 from the political parties liaison.
How many are there?
There is 1 for non-political, non-parliamentary political parties.
Uh-huh.
Non-parliamentary political parties. Because for us, we have already gotten through the minority and majority.
Are they in a political parties liaison committee?
Let me tell you.
There are 3.
Let me tell you. There's 1.
Let me tell you what the bill says.
Okay.
3, the law now. 3 from the political parties liaison committee. 1 representing non-parliamentary political parties. 1 representing a party that is in the national level. 1 representing a party that's not in the national level.
I need to see the actual bill myself. But the point that I was making is this.
There are 5 out of 9.
In fact, the initial problem... The initial problem, City, the reason why the initial law was thrown out was because there was a majority of political players in the panel. So there is no way we made the same mistake twice.
If there's one thing politicians are doing...
I will have to check that with the law, and then we have that conversation.
Okay. There is yes way. Let me open it. We only have a few
The point we're making here is this. When you have, and as you say correctly, an important body like the IEBC, there's no way, it can't be Caesar's wife. You will not be beyond reproach. That one we've understood and we have accepted. However, it must be necessarily representative of the Kenyan community.
So how would you frame it? How would you
here's what it says.
All those interests?
I will tell you.
The first schedule in the Principal Act is amended, and now we have the selection panel shall consist of 2 persons nominated by the Parliamentary Service Commission representing majority party or coalition and a minority party or coalition. 3 persons nominated by the Political Parties Liaison Committee, of whom 1 shall be from a party other than a parliamentary party or coalition of parties.
Yes.
Where 1 shall be from a parliamentary party or coalition of parties forming the national government. And 1 shall be from a parliamentary party or coalition of parties not forming the national government.
Okay. Those are 5.
In total, 5.
Yeah, let's continue.
How many members are we talking about?
Continue.
9.
Continue.
Oh, the others I can just tell you quickly. 1 person shall be from the Law Society of Kenya. 1 person shall be from ISPAC. And 2 persons shall be from the Interreligious Council of Kenya. Total?
You are right.
Is equals 9. Majority of the members of this panel are representing England and Netherlands.
Yeah. You are right. So I don't have a justification for you. I know for a fact that we have taken the position that we cannot lock out political interest from constitution of the IBC because they are the biggest stakeholders.
We are not asking them to be locked out.
As to whether the propriety of the law or otherwise,
Edwin, political
it is something you can always...
the biggest stakeholder, Edwin, even according to the constitution, is the voter.
Yes.
The voter, the citizen, is delegating his authority to these elected officials. The biggest stakeholder in an election is not the candidate.
No.
Yeah. No, we are not saying the candidate. We are saying the political player.
And the representation of this this voter doesn't lie beginning.
You are right. You are right. I'm telling you, you are right. It's fine. It's fine. But I would want to, also convince you people that one of the best acknowledged elections was the one from 2002. And you should know how that referee was arrived at. That referee was arrived at by political players, by political parties. The IPPG model was the best model that delivered the best election. So we can have this conversation.
In 1997, the first IPPG Electoral Commission had a dispute.
Yes, it did.
We can have this conversation. So that we are able to agree on what you think is right and what our thinking is. It's fine.
Time imeisha.
Time imeisha aje na kuna vitu zingine
1 minute after 10.
Okay,
it's a minute after 10. Time for the news. Edwin, please come back. Always a pleasure having you here. The Senator of Nairobi City County is Edwin Sifuna. He's been here. Have a lovely day.
I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget regarding the 156 billion loan advance to Kenya